Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. It's time for the best damn comic book YouTube and podcast and all the interwebs. It's time for the Comics Aficionados live Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 a.m. Pacific Time. We got a great panel for you today. We've got some big news to drop as far as one of our panel members, and we've got someone to welcome to the Comics Aficionados. First up, Gabe Hernandez from Weird Science and comicalopinions.com. How you doing, Gabe?
I'm doing just great. Thank you for having me today.
Well, I'm glad you could make it. I've talked about Weird Science a few times here on the channel. It's definitely one of the go-to spots I have as far as comic book reviews, and I think you guys do a great job over there. So congratulations.
I appreciate that. We really try to focus on making sure that we write reviews that are focused on what the readers want to know about an issue that comes out, rather than trying to focus on what the publisher wants to hear. I'm trying to be as nice and as politically savvy about that as possible, but it's the truth. And and we get together and we get in the Slack and we talk about all kinds of things. But really, our focus is looking at comics from a story-centric point of view and understanding about giving an honest and fair opinion about what those comics mean from a customer's point of view.
Absolutely. So if you're looking for a place to get good reviews that are going to review most of the big titles each and every week and some of the smaller ones, I think Weird Science is about as good as it gets on comic book reviewing, is my opinion. Doc, you're not getting married yet?
No. Jesus Christ, no.
Okay. Also, someone asked about Perch. Twice. Perch is at Emerald City Comic Con right now. He's also in the middle of moving, doing a transition. You're probably not going to see Perch on the channel for at least a couple more weeks until he gets settled down with the moving after Emerald City Comic Con, unfortunately. But I have kept in touch. It sounds like he's having a great time up there in Seattle. Who else we got here? We've got Drew from Comics Elite. How you doing, Drew?
I am tired beyond belief. We just unpacked the DC stuff, and I've got my own little thing going on right now on Kickstarter. We're going to talk about that later. But
no, let's talk about it now. I got something for you, buddy.
Oh, talk about it now? Oh, okay. So, there it is.
My name is Giaris. I am the daughter of Cleomenes, king of Sparta. This is the first chapter in the story of my life. Be warned, this isn't a story for the faint of heart. Unlike most in your time, nothing was handed to me. My life was one forged with pain, punishment, and countless battles. When you read my story, you will see I truly was born of blood. Color this holiday season red with Born of Blood. Only on Kickstarter.
Well, there we go. Congratulations.
Thanks,
That's
man.
a nice promo you got there, Drew. What can you tell us about Born of Blood?
So, Born of Blood, I'm telling the story of King Cleomenes' daughter, the king of Sparta, and we're going to see her life from a young woman to an adult queen over 6 issues. And she's going to suffer. She's going to have tragedy. She's going to have triumphs. She's going to fall in love. We're going to see her whole life, her alpha to her omega, in 6 issues. And
right.
I'll say this: if you detested the current Hawkeye #1, you will love this.
Well, that's a big audience that you're shooting for there, Drew. How long do people have to make a decision? Maybe they don't have the fundage right now. How long do they have to get into there to sign up for that Kickstarter?
We are currently up. We have 27 days to go. 27 days to go, and we are at 39,540 right now. Over 520 backers.
Wow! Congratulations! That is an enormous success. This is your first crowdfunded campaign.
My first professional comic work and my first crowdfunded campaign.
Awesome.
Oh, there we go. A little slow clap.
Yeah.
Good job, buddy.
Who's doing the art?
Thanks. And Everett Todd is correct. Yeah, I am incorporating the system of 2 kings at the same time. Yes, I will be incorporating that. Trust me. I did some research into the Spartan lore. Yes, I'm putting that stuff in here.
So you're doing the writing and the art?
I'm doing the writing. The art team is from Stone Tower. I think it's Stone Tower Studios. They're located in Argentina. A lot of these guys are my colorist. This is his first professional gig. and he is knocking it out of the park. And my artist is Carlos Beccaria. He's my interior artist. He's fantastic. Sebastian Gonzalez is the colorist. And my letterer is Joel Rodriguez, and he's amazing. His letters are terrific, and I could not be prouder than this comic right now. And all I'm going to say is I will put my comic up to any current day Marvel comic any day of the week and say, come at me.
All right, so I do want to apologize in advance. I forgot to put a link in the video description. It will get there sooner rather than later. So if you're watching this on the replay, the link will be there. If you're watching it live and you're interested in backing the campaign, go to Kickstarter, type in Born of Blood. The comic book campaign is going to come right back, or going to come right up. And I think that you guys will be impressed, and definitely want to support the friends of the channel if you have the opportunity. So thank you a lot. Thanks a lot, Drew. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, Josh, you did your very final review on BatmanNews.com. So now you're solely focused on pop by culture, doing some work on Batman News. And this is what Lane Kramer had to say to us. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. So Wes and Josh, it seemed you guys had snake pick poetry from Vikings playing when you guys were reading Batman Fear State stuff, plus Avengers 50, Wes. I was not enamored with Batman Fear State, Josh. Were you?
No. We'll leave it at just no.
It was incomprehensible. That's one of the worst, least cohesive crossover stories I've read. What did you think about that one, Gabe? Obviously, you concentrate more on DC Comics. Did you think Fear State across the titles really flowed?
Fear State.
That's all you did it up.
I feel like that was a good response. Like, oh, that's how we
It
felt.
read to me like Tini was trying to do an event before he went out the door. Yeah. And he just said, well, let's see, fear. I want to talk about the kind of bringing the real world events of political, government oppression and all those things, and trying to kind of spin it into something a little bit more whimsical, a little bit more comic booky. And, oh, it's fear. So let's grab the scarecrow and put it in the bag, shake it up real hard, throw it on a page, and then he's gone. And then the tie-ins didn't matter. The main event was mostly a lot of nothing. The Magistrate, I don't know why anybody's interested in the Magistrate at this point. I honestly cannot understand why anybody thinks the Magistrate is a good selling point. And then all the Batmans are leaving. Literally have two Batmans at the same time, and they're all leaving.
Yep.
So it's sort of like saying, well, Tinian's gone, so let's take the Batmans and just throw them out of Gotham.
Your initial
for the publisher that has the most amount of Batman books going on all at once, all at the same time, to be so to have so little investment in the actual character of Batman, I don't understand the conflict there. It makes no sense.
Yes. So it wasn't just Josh and myself, Lane. Other people were not happy with that event, and we're going to talk about Avengers 750, Avengers 50. It sounds like Drew has got some spicy things to say about that. So it's not just us. We're not the only sourpusses around here. So how's everything, Joe and Josh? Are you happy to be focused solely on Popeye culture?
Oh, I mean, let me put it this way. My life right now, I'm spending like 12 to 15 hours a day at my day job because I'm in sales and it's holiday season. And then I'm coming home and like, Jesus Christ, I've got like 50 something Batman books to read a month. I'm very happy. I mean, I love Batman news. I will still be a part of some small things here and there, but I'm very happy to focus on something other than Batman. Granted, there will still be a lot of Batman at Popeye culture, but yeah, I'm happy to fully step into my adventure.
Very good. Also, we've got Yul Carter from Fantastic Comics in Berkeley. Were you at SDCC?
Oh, no.
On Thanksgiving. They had it on Thanksgiving.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't do conventions anymore.
Yeah. We're talking about this later, though, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll
Yul's kind of in the area. Have you
Yeah,
seen Skip? Skip said he was going to come visit this week.
Wait, what? Oh,
Skip,
is he? That's great. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Come on Sunday. It's a slow day. I like having visitors on Sunday.
There you go, Skip. If you want more Yule than normal, you
That's
show up
right.
on a Sunday. You'll get some.
No, he came in and we had a great conversation. He and I like a lot of the same stuff, so it was a good time.
Absolutely. And there is also a link to Yule Carter's Fantastic Comics website. It's in progress if you want to do the e-commerce, but there's links to all of their stuff. And Yule's got it's a wild time for retailers because you just don't know when those comic books are going to arrive right now, Yule.
It's true. I was pretty salty with Diamond the other day, and I can't stand Diamond. They're the ones I don't like the most. Still, well, even now.
Speaking of salty, Doc and I are full of piss and vinegar, and tomorrow's This Week at X-Men because we had to talk about Trial of Magneto, and then on Monday we're talking about Wonder Woman, Historia of the Amazons, and Phoenix Song Echo #2. How you doing, Doc? You calmed down yet?
I'm fine, man. I'm fine. Yeah, it's a Saturday.
You're doing all those books with Wes?
Yeah. It gave me fucking trauma.
Giving him ulcers.
Yeah. I'm going to end up with an actual like brain bleed one of these days from reading this many shitty fucking comics. But I do it because I love this channel.
I could help you with that brain bleed. You could sell those Wonder Womans at my store and you can watch them like actually sell. I mean,
nobody's going to read them, but they might sell there.
Them. They love that.
You can't read. Never mind. You know what? I'll save that.
Doc, we're talking about that on Monday. All right, let's get into the topics. Let's get into the show. We're going to talk about what era comic books we're on. We've got my friend from right here in the Philippines, Chris the Bliss, with the 125 peso super chat. Thank you so much. What comic era is this? He says the answer is the propaganda era.
Well, the answer
Josh,
to this,
you're a bit more optimistic than Doc. Are we in the propaganda era?
Am I though? Am I?
Yes, you are. Trust me.
Okay. I guess you could say that. I don't know. I don't know if I'd call it necessarily the propaganda era. I think when we separate ourselves from this time period a little bit, we'll look back and kind of refer to it as the quote unquote all new, all different era. Because that's kind of the slang that I think defines what we're seeing. And Marvel kind of got that going. I will say, for those of you that aren't here with us on the channel, before we record these, we get like Wes sends a link or a list of links. That CBR article was trash. That sucker was garbage.
Listen, there's only so many people that wrote articles on what era we're in. I just wanted to get to the thoughts percolating.
Yeah, but we already have certain defined eras that he just completely ignored. I was like, what is this? And I
well,
go ahead.
Here's the thing with this. Whatever current era you're in will always be the modern era. Mm-hmm. What happens is the era that you end gets renamed. The one that had previously been, because in 1963, comics were in the modern era. It wasn't until later that they renamed that era the Silver Age. When you were in 1975, 1978, it was the modern era, and then it became the Bronze Age. And then now the way that comics have been broken up since then, right now they still only define it as everything up until about 1981 as silver, golden, bronze.
All right, Doc, before you finish this, there are like 4 other super chats we have got to get into.
I know.
Then we'll get into this topic heavy. We do have Cal Miles says, spoilers, Wonder Woman Historia is just another typical Kelly Sue story. All men are evil, and Aphrodite is fat now, and some dialogue about birds.
I could not believe that. Oh my God, she was fat now. Like, no, this is wrong on every level.
Wait, so a fat chick wanted to make the goddess of sex fat? Shocking.
I don't think she's fat.
I don't understand the weight obsession with the Wonder Woman comics these days. So you're seeing the same thing in Nubia and the Amazons, which I think has a lot of potential, but the art is just strange. It's bizarre. I mean, they're basically depicting brand new Amazons coming out of the Well of Souls, which has all kinds of metaphorical implications about a tunnel where you're birthed out of an island. You can kind of see where that's going. And they're painting Amazons as middle-aged, overweight yentas. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah. Spending half a comic in an office having discussions. I could not believe that. Like that second issue, just sitting in an office talking.
Why do Amazons that spend all day combat training need a fight club? Please, somebody tell me that. I haven't been able to figure it out.
Damn. I'm so glad I haven't read any of these.
Also, this is for you, Doc. Kyle Mile says, thanks for the follow on Twitter, but my account got suspended. But that's a long story. So
yeah, I was like, wait, didn't I just follow that dude? And then like he's not fucking there anymore. Sorry, bud. That sucks.
It happens. Twitter's a minefield. You never know when you're going to get suspended. Doc's been he's been in timeout quite a few times. Let's put it that way.
I've been timeout quite a few times. My real account got banned about a year ago, and so I had to repurpose an other old account that I had created in 2010. And I'm like, I'll just repurpose this one.
You probably shouldn't tell people that. There are actually people that watch the show that don't like you.
That's fine. I did not actually violate the terms of service.
Okay.
I did not create a new account. I used an existing account.
All right, we got Lake Graber. Hey, Williamson coming on for a bit on Batman has me excited. For the first time in 22 years, I'm going to read floppy versions monthly. I want to see a bit. What do you think about that, Drew? You've got the new comic book in your hands. Is he right to be excited about Joshua Williamson taking over?
If it weren't for a small number of issues, I would say yes, but he's only doing this for a short stint, which is disappointing, in my opinion. I mean, unless Abyss completely knocks it out of the park, then they may be like, okay, hey, Josh, we may want you for a few more issues now. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully, I haven't read it yet. I got it right here. So hopefully he does knock it out of the park.
You're not going to show him the gold cover?
Oh, the gold cover. The gold cover. Yes.
Look at that one.
Right there.
Wow. 1 in 100, everybody.
Yes.
You need to buy 100 Batmans in order to be able to purchase that one.
Or have your own exclusive. Which
Sure.
is
How many do you have to buy then?
3,000? I think.
Sounds about right. And yep, there's the Cal Nagoo variant right there. It's one of the three we have.
Beautiful. Can they get that on your website right now?
I believe so. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, there is a link to the Comics Elite website if you want to go pick up that cover. We've also got Lade Kramer. This is the Green Era, X-Men Green Era. Nothing's gone quite that far. That was I don't know. Was that an anomaly?
Yes, X-Men Green went that far.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. That doesn't happen all that much. Definitely want to say thanks to David Smith. We got him in the house. We've got Aaron Sparrow. We got the Lawn Gnome. We got Debbie. We got Skip and Tosh says he's going to be in your shop on Sunday. You'll to take you up on that. Maybe you'll have a coffee with him. You guys can sit down. We got Master Chudy. We haven't seen Master Chudy in a while. We had him on the channel once. That was like 2 years ago, I think. He says, I don't know about naming the era, but you're clearly in an era that lacks wonder and creativity. Nothing excites. Everything needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
Maybe a TV era or something like streaming era.
We're heading toward the streaming era.
I mean,
I think eventually all the publishers are going to be owned by streamers.
Well, I feel like, dialogue in comics try to copy movies and TV.
Yep.
And then TV and movies seems to be trying to copy comics. And it's
also
like a big old
cyclical.
circle jerk. Oh, it's a circle jerk era.
Yeah.
How's that? There's a lot of jerking going on.
There's a lot of jerking going on in the comic book industry. All right, so we do have some optimists on the panel here. Yule Carter, I think Yule probably the most optimistic member here. I've called it the broken era. Doc says it's the modern era. What do you think this era that we're in, or what do you think it'll be called when we look back on this era in comic books?
I think some sort of like TV multimedia era, something like that. We're seeing the fallout even more so from the Image guys, with people not really bringing their A game to the main companies because of Jim Starlin not making money for Thanos in the movies. So people are like, well, I'm going to stick with Image, bring that good stuff out there. But we also see that really doesn't matter for the most part. As far as like the zeitgeist, the public,
it's like the wasted era here, right? All this wasted potential, all this
it might
notoriety for the characters. They do it all away.
there's great stuff. I mean, everybody says it. I don't disagree. There's always, there's something for everybody. Although there's always someone that comes into the store and they ask for something that just is not possible to,
It's
comics with Braille,
This is look, to finish what I was saying before though. There's a theme though with this. It's all about metal. You have the Platinum era, the Golden era, Silver Age, Bronze Age. Then they have everything after that is currently still considered Modern Age, but there is a Copper Age, and it's a very transitory age. Then from about 91, I'd say from the launch of Image Comics all the way until about New 52 and Flashpoint, that would be the Chromium era. I mean, it both fits in the naming scheme and, hey,
the covers.
So the fucking covers. Yes. Now, well, if we
can I see that
back,
Batman again?
But if you notice all of these eras, the metal that it's referring to gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So you have to keep with a conventional naming.
We're going to aluminum?
No, we're essentially, I'd say hell, we're in the fucking Iron Age. It is the cheapest.
Maybe we're in the Bitcoin age or something like that.
Well, it could be the iron oxide age, the fucking rust age. That's where we're at. It's just rust. Everything.
Well, I mean, you could stick with the elementals and move away from metal. You could say something like it's the Silicon Age, because everything's moving to digital. So much of Hollywood's getting funded by Silicon Valley.
Yep.
Everything is moving to digital, not just from streaming and Netflix and Amazon Prime and everything else, but most of the art these days is done by digital. I know there's still some evangelists that like paper and pencil, and I certainly have a fond appreciation for that. But pretty much the way they're being constructed is digital, the way they're distributed is digital, and the way people are starting to increasingly consume them, especially with supply chain issues, is via digital, whether they like it or not. Some people like it, some people don't, but they do it because they have to. So pretty much everything is digital in some form or another. You can call it the Silicon Age if you want to.
Also, silicon, fake implants.
Yeah, fake.
Yeah. There's some other places with that.
Where you try to make
bait and switch on the
shit. Yeah. Where you try to make ugly shit pretty. Because it's ugly and they've been trying to make it pretty and desirable for a long time and failing miserably at it.
So Alan Lyle says we're in the Karen Whisper Network era and White Guilt. I don't know if that would be the title of it. Those are some underlying things that are happening. Everett Todd said certainly not the Undisputed era. Oh my goodness!
Certainly not.
How did actually destroy the Undisputed era like this?
Could be the unprecedented era. You seem to be hearing the word unprecedented a lot these days, so maybe it's that.
Oh yes, every event. We got the Exploding Pretty says the Prodown Age.
See, I'm calling it the message era. That's what I'm calling it, the message era, where we're putting the agenda, the message over actual sales.
Propaganda era.
Profit. Yes.
That's a good one. We got Kenneth Dowling in the house. He says, "What's up, guys? Hello to Gabriel Hernandez. Hope you all had a good week. Love those variant Batman covers, Drew."
Thank you. Yeah.
We had another question in here. They asked, do you have a variant of Hellion 16 since it's the last one with Madeline Pryor on the cover?
We have a Hellions 2 variant with Madeline Pryor on it by Mike Mayhew, which is flipping hot. It's Mike Mayhew. Absolutely. It's Mike Mayhew's, Mr. Sinister and Madeline Pryor. It's awesome.
Is it still there?
Yeah, we still have it. Yeah.
There you go. If you go to the website, you can find that one for number 2.
Yeah,
Mike Mayhew. He was supposed to do that Joker book, right?
There we go. Yep, Whoa. Right there.
Oh, very nice. Very beautiful. Doc, is that a good picture of Maddie Pryor?
Hold on, let me.
That's the picture of Maddie Pryor.
There we go.
Yes,
that's pretty good to me.
Yep, I am behind this one completely.
I like Pilot Madeline Pryor. What are you talking about?
Drew, I think you should message me after this fucking stream. I might want to buy that.
It looks like we've got something in the private chat there for you, Doc. Maybe that's in there. So thank you very much to Kenneth Dowling and everybody. Looks like we're caught up on these. We got Cadiz, Man of Action. We got a lot of great people in here today. Brian with a Y. Maybe when I used to think it was Brian with a,
Yeah.
because I'm a moron. All right, Gabe. Obviously, you said it's the Silicon era. Did you have any thoughts on this one? Josh?
I mean, I have a lot of joke comments, but if we're gonna be serious,
Go for it. Let's be funny.
I was
Bring
gonna
on the
say
jokes.
I do think Gabriel actually has a valid point, and if we're gonna realistically look at this, I think the Silicon era is probably what we're gonna see it called, and it makes sense. So I wasn't thinking logically, and he said that, and I was like, oh shit, like.
That makes perfect sense.
It does. But it's also because if you try to go anything lower than bronze, everyone's going to freak out and, throw this hissy fit about why are you diminishing the quality of comics and how you're labeling us. Don't label us this way.
The tin era? How could you do that?
We're brave, beautiful, and free.
But Copper has intrinsic value. And I know. I
like referring to Copper as what we were referring as the modern age. So that 1985 up to about wherever you want to stop it. You could probably stop it anywhere between 2004 to
I call it. Mine is Secret Wars to the launch, the first Secret Wars to the launch of Image Comics, because it was a very transitory age. And so it's only actually about 7 years compared to the rest of them that are in, 10 plus years for me.
I want to congratulate Josh. You're right about the diminishing people with a lesser metal grade. How about lithium age?
Yeah,
That's a big deal now.
A lot of these motherfuckers need some lithium.
Well, it certainly implies something there.
I was thinking, cell phones and batteries and all that stuff also, But
there's a lot of people. I heard someone say they think it's going to be the Forgotten Age. And I think that might be a little bit more correct than some people will give it credit for. I do think there are few stories, because we're not getting a lot of stuff that's original, Gabe. I'm sure you've noticed this too. We're getting a lot of rehash stuff, so it's really hard to stand out. Like the only 3 books, really recent books that I can think of that I think are really going to stand the test of time are like Batman White Knight. I think Doomsday Clock, and maybe like House of X Powers of 10, stuff like that were really doing stuff that was different.
I'd largely agree with that. I think that makes sense, especially when you have skilled writers, skilled storytellers that are given an opportunity to kind of think a little bit outside the box of what people are used to. If you think about it, like Batman Black and White, that's really out of continuity. That's way out there. But it's a creative story. It's using the characters. You can say they're a little bit off the norm of what you would consider a tried and true Batman, but it makes sense and it fits the world that Sean created. Same thing with Doomsday Clock. I mean, personally, I thought using Dr. Manhattan for what they were trying to do was a brilliant idea. Now, did it stick the landing? Not exactly. They had some work to do, but the concept was there, especially building on what they were trying to do of coming out of New 52 into Rebirth and finding out, okay, how do we reset the universe but doing it in a fun, creative way? I thought that was a great idea. It's just the execution fell short all the way through. So I think when you have talented writers and you give them interesting ideas and it gives them a little bit of room, not too much, a little bit of room to kind of think outside the box, they can do some great stuff. But but if you look at, a majority of Tinian's run, it's really rehashing stories. If you look at, we said before the stream started, we had no reason to talk about Tom King, and so talk about Tom King is if you look at Supergirl, if you look at Human Target, if you look at all these other stories, they're basically just rehashes of like classic Hollywood movies.
He's moved on to movies now.
He's into the movies. He's just redoing detective noir for Human Target. He's just redoing True Grit for Supergirl. He's just redoing. That's not to say that's necessarily a bad thing. Because you're recasting it with a different skin, but at the same time, it's not new original ideas. And in the big 2 right now, it's just. I think they're just trying to reskin everything over and over again, trying to kind of capture some kind of spark of something, and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, someone else said they thought it would be the nostalgia age, where they're trying to just play on nostalgia for sales rather than create anything new. We do have Call Me Calvin says the current era in comics will be called the woke age. I think that maybe play a part in it, but I think that's almost like entertainment and media in general, perhaps. Like we're seeing some overtones and influences there. So I don't know if that will directly, identify the comic book age. That just might be the era like of culture we're in. Kenneth Dowling says, I like Gabe's answers, Silicon Age or the message era, where you have writers talking about message activism instead of character and story in the comic books. What do you think about that, Drew? It does feel like we're getting a lot more, instead of just a social messaging or adding in social issues or whatever. It feels like the characters are taking a backseat to a lot of the messaging right now.
Which is why I was going to dub it the message era, and which is very true. And when you read as much as we do, and you see these in the comics, it really makes me proud of the comic I wrote. I'm writing on Kickstarter, which is the exact opposite of this. I'm just telling a great story. I want to tell a fun story. I don't care about I don't give a shit about the message. I'm telling a fun story. That should come first. And a lot of these writers have forgotten that. They just don't want that to be the focus because clearly their story sucks.
Well, I'm going to say, too, it's not like we haven't had messages in comics before now. Like, there have always been messages. There's always been themes.
Yeah.
It's just that it was executed much better previously because, I mean, you're right. There was a focus on the character or focus on the story, and they used both of those as the actual vehicle for their message. And their messages were typically a little more balanced. But
we've got you murdered that guy from Canada. How did the previous ages get their names, Doc?
Well, they started being named actually in the 70s, and they looked, which would be currently the Bronze Age. The Bronze Age was called the Modern Age at that time, and they just referred to it as the origins of all the characters that they loved were the Golden Age, and it wasn't until they became popular again back in the 50s, like the return of the superhero comics with Showcase #4 with Barry Allen. That they called that the Silver Age. And then that just was the same. There was just the Modern Age or the Golden Age, the Silver Age, and the Modern Age all the way until the 90s. And it wasn't until like Wizard magazine in the 90s and kind of comic culture growing that they looked back and redefined the eras. And they looked at it and said, okay, yeah, the Golden Age was there, the Silver Age was there, but the era where they originally coined it was that we're going to call that the Bronze Age, and then anything after 1981 is the Modern Age because it was only 10 years ago. They looked at that as we're still in the same era of comics, and I think we've gone through at least 2 to 3 eras since that time that have never been redefined. We're still calling from 1981 to 2021. We're calling 40 years of comics as the Modern Age, where Gold was only 15 years or 17 years. Silver was about 22 years about 20 years. And Bronze was only 7 years. Yet we're calling 40 years Modern Era. I don't think there's anything similar between now and what was being published in 1982.
Absolutely. That's the biggest difference is the way that comics are made, they're distributed, the way they're printed, published, and all that thing. Everything has changed and it's started to change more rapidly. We've got some other ideas here. Someone would say it's the milkshake age. Someone would say Aaron Sparrow says it's the uninspired era. That's not a bad one. Pube Stash says the reboot era. That is a great name.
Man of Action says called it the lead age.
Yes, that's Avengers 750 right there. All weight, no value right there.
Yes.
AL says it's the foam age. It's transitory. It has no substance or structure.
Damn.
That's a
you know how the Golden Age got named, right? Someone was like, "Oh man, those first Supermans, and that was the Golden Age."
Yes, and that's literally how it became. And then
there's probably Busick and Jeppy and a bunch of those old farts getting in. Oh well, those got
no. It would have been guys like Steve Gerber and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
The guys that the Len Wein, Chris Claremont.
I have called the 1980s the Golden Age, though.
I do too.
The twat era.
That is.
But there is a there's a theme for it. I think we need to look back. It's been 20 years since we redefined the ages the first time, and I think it's about time we do it again. But
has there ever been a time when art isn't more important than writing in comics? I feel than now.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, right now, that's the problem.
Yeah, I mean,
right
that's what
now.
I'm saying. I mean, this, like, right now, if it's like the art is the most important thing, and then sometimes it doesn't feel like it is at all.
No, art is the least
But
important thing in a comic book these days.
it is, and yet
It is
sometimes it's
absolutely
like
the
the
least
most.
important. The fucking colorist is more important than the artist.
All right.
Yeah, I hear you. All right.
No, I agree.
We did have one viewer that they asked this question, and we'll go on to the next topic. They asked, "Is this the worst era in comics history?" And I would say no, because there were times in the history of comic books where Marvel was going bankrupt and almost didn't make it. There were times when it appeared that DC Comics might not make it. You know, we actually had the enormous implosion in the 90s that put out, a tremendous amount of stores out of business and whatnot. So I don't think we're in a great era right now. Doc, do you think this is the worst era?
I think it's closing in on like 1978, 1979, 1980, where you were at like the DC implosion. Marvel kind of having no real clue what direction outside of X-Men. Nothing that they were doing was really kind of blowing anybody's minds. Nobody knew what the fuck to do. So I'd say we're really close to that. It's kind of par for the course. Honestly, even the 90s distributor wars, image implosion and everything like that was still a stronger period of time that was creating more memorable books that were legitimately great at the time. Yes, people were stopping to read, but there's nothing that's legitimately great out. There's very little things.
But you're not talking about Marvel Edge when you say that, right?
No, I'm not talking about Marvel Edge, but you had the beginning of some of you have things like Age of Apocalypse that was coming out around that time. You had stuff that is very, very memorable. You have a lot of the early Wildstorm, a lot of your like kind of more indie stuff kind of had a little bit more of a chance than Mike Allred doing Madman. There was a few other ones that were also coming out around that time that were really, and then you had, especially right around that time, Wildstorm really becoming a very, very big innovator that everyone else copied for the entire 2000s. Everything that Wildstorm was doing from like 1997 through, or 1996 through about 2002 is what Marvel and DC spent the entire 2000s literally copying and stealing all the talent. All that talent that's real big names right now. Brubaker, Miller, Morrison did some stuff. Joe Casey, Joe Kelly, Sean Phillips,
Ali Garza,
J. Scott Campbell, the Brian Hitch. All of those guys really started innovating the industry and really helped once they got out of Wildstorm, once they got poached by Marvel and DC, really started rebuilding the big two as a result. So yeah, there's a lot of memorable stuff from that era. There's very little outside of X-Men and maybe Green Arrow, Green Lantern in that DC implosion era. What the fuck else is memorable from back then?
There's got to be something. We do have Mr. DC Comics. Today we are in the manga era of comics, the second golden age for indie comics, and the end of mainstream comics. Well,
I was going
Rich
to
has
call
that
it
diagram. He says mainstream comics are manga and like Dogman.
Selling
I
more.
didn't realize Tim Seeley had entered the chat. So we can pass I think I'd like to agree and echo Doc's statement about just how much of an impact, especially when they had that little exodus from Marvel over and starting the Image. Now that CBR article is filled with way too much sarcasm and snark to be taken seriously. But one of the things I think it did get right is it sort of labeled that early 90s period on through maybe the last 5 to 10 years after that as the image age. I don't think you can overstate enough how much of an impact that exodus of those creators like McFarlane and Liefeld and Lee and everybody else moving over and creating image, how much of a paradigm shift and its impact on the industry as a whole. So to kind of call that the image age, I don't think is necessarily just kind of trumping up or building up a kind of fanboying on image, but it's to at least acknowledge that it had a major impact on the industry. And as you go back through those ages, you notice that there are certain milestones or certain big events. Like you go back to the 80s, that's when you had the Dark Knight and the Watchmen, and that kind of sets the stage from transitioning from one stage to the other. In this age, there's no big. Well, you could almost argue the pandemic might be the milestone that creates the shift because there's such upheaval going on right now, and maybe something goes along with that. But yeah, I mean, it was less about what were the memorable books in that time, which created the shift, and more about what kind of upheavals affected how the industry runs and what people look to as far as the models they take for artists and creators going forward. And I think that's probably what we're going to have to go back and look at this age for, is to understand how was the industry upset and how did it come out of that? How did it evolve out of that to become something different or new?
Yeah.
Alex says the 80s are his favorite decade of comics, whatever you want to call it.
That would probably be the end of the Bronze and all of the Copper Age.
There was a comment in the chat from Luca that said he would consider this the ideological era. And I kept trying to think of a way to describe the social aspect of what we're seeing in comics without it sounding negative. And that's probably a good way of describing it. So I could see it being called that.
It doesn't go with the naming pattern, though. That's I get anal about that.
You're upsetting Doc's OCD.
I get it, but how much of what we're seeing right now makes sense? I think it would make more sense that they broke away from the naming pattern because we're brave, beautiful, and free.
But to going back to that previous comment about the importance of art or where it is and where it falls and within the context of decision making and what are people looking for, I think what we're really lacking more than anything else is we're not lacking good artists. We're not lacking skilled writers, and I'm being very careful when I say that the way I'm saying that, skilled writers. What we're lacking is storytellers. Mm-hmm. We're lacking on people who are saying, I want to tell a story. And that's not writing. I'm being very careful about that. Storytelling is not just writing. It's writing and the art combined into something complete, a whole. And what we're really lacking is our publishers, editors, creators that are saying, I want to tell a good story. How do we put the pieces together and get it out there? And until we kind of find some way out of that kind of drought of people that want to tell stories, I think we're in for a rough patch until we can figure that out.
I will rebut against you for a second and say that we are missing skilled writers holistically, because one of my biggest issues with writing in comics right now is people don't know how to craft a story. They don't know how to use language. They don't know how to use pacing and syntax. And you see it. People may not recognize it, but there is a technical aspect to writing that you do, the way you phrase your sentences, the way you actually narrate your dialogue. It makes a difference. And we don't see that at all.
I'll agree with you for the most part. I'll agree with you on that. I mean, there are some good writers, or I should say skilled writers. But when I pick up, who is it? Maureen Gu in the Silk mini episode and the mini series, and the villain kept saying #goals. I said, nope, I'm done. I'm putting that away. I can't have a superhero comic where the main villain, who is a uber scientist and a super villain and is calling forth demons, saying #goals in more than one issue. I said, no, I'm done. Yeah. So until we kind of get out of the Twitter mindset of writing, we're just going to be in for a rut.
We actually kind of touched on this, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago in the live stream, because I made a comment on how people don't talk this way. And then I was like, actually, I might be wrong, because I work with a lot of younger kids and they will say literally LOL or OMG, verbally say it. And I'm just like, oh God, come on. Just
I got some nieces that do that.
Oh man, it's cringy.
All right, fellas. Does anyone else have anything to say about what era of comics we're in before we move on to Avengers 750?
I just say whatever era. Yeah, whatever era is is in. We're still in the same era from about
What
2011
part of this
to
era
now.
are we in, Doc?
I hope the fuck we're near the end of it.
I
That's
think
all
Gabe had a
know.
point. I think the pandemic might be the closing point of one era and the beginning of another. So we've had so much upheaval just as far as the distribution, the mass exodus of the big writers going over to Substack, the infusion of digital. We've got, I don't know if people have noticed this. We got Tapas, we got Webtoon, we got all these digital comic platforms from outside the United States flooding the market right now and invading the North American comic market because they see a weakness. And I think we're going through a major transition right now as we speak.
Yeah,
I know their weakness. You gotta have Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, X-Men, or else who cares? Sorry, guys.
yeah. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if they don't have.
I mean, that's not
characters
true.
I like.
I mean, that is totally not true. And it didn't take long in my reading of comic books to where I was looking for something that was similar to Superman, but not Superman. And back in the day, for me, it was Pacific Comics or First or Comico, and then eventually Fantagraphics and things like that. All companies that are not all. Fantagraphics still around.
That's the only.
Now your best
one.
option is My Hero Academia.
Yeah, well, that's if you want straight superheroes, but
One Punch Man.
Eventually, so you go into something that's similar but not. So I think like One Punch Man would probably be more like that. Where's the mages of today, though?
Well, I think we're
All right,
in
fellas.
the first. Well, I think we're in the first era that has people creating comics that did not grow up on comics, except for since the Golden Age, but they grew up on mythology.
Well, you see people that say like, "Oh, I know everything about X-Men from the cartoon."
Yeah.
Oh, damn!
And then you have
inconsistency.
Then you have truly talented guys like Robert Venditti, who admitted he wasn't a big fan of comics, but he is knocking his comics out of the park. He is one of those few
Came
rare.
into
And
comics
Ascenti.
late in life, like myself.
Yeah.
Everybody likes to love Ann Nesene. She didn't want to write freaking superhero comics.
All right, fellas, let's
there you
move
go.
over to Avengers 750. We had an enormous milestone this week. It was $10 whole, and it was rough sledding getting through this. I must have put the comic book down 4 times probably just to make it through. I have an entire review on this. I was unimpressed by Avengers 750, Avengers 50, whatever you want to call it. Drew, I know you had thoughts about this $10 Avengers 750. What were your thoughts on Avengers 750?
I hated this. I hated this comic with every fiber of my being. Like Khan hates Kirk in Star Trek II level hate. Sean loved this to death. Kyle thought it was okay. But honestly, the only positive about this I can say, the only positive is the Steve McNiven art story in the very back with Thor and King Arthur. That was the one great aspect of this comic, one good aspect. But everything with the bad fanfic with the 10 million BC Avengers and the Namor bending the knee before She-Hulk and Howard Stark, billionaire philanthropist, making a deal with Mephisto, short for Mephistopheles, the devil, and you think he's on the level. I can't, no. And every ounce of this comic I hated. I'm going to stop.
Well, there's really good art in this comic, more than just Steve McNiven. You got Cooter, Carlos Pacheco, one of my all-time favorites. I can't remember who all the other people are.
Still couldn't just pay one fucking artist for even one issue.
Dude,
like,
this
hey,
is a
good
big
artist.
all
I
right,
don't
firstly,
care.
there is a lot of pages in this book. This is at least
It's a trade. It's a trade paperback.
It's way more than 2 issues worth in this one book. So it's a steep price tag, but at the same time, you're getting about 2.5, 3 comics worth. And at the prices today, it's actually a deal.
But at the same time, I mean, it's if you can want to compare it to like a meal, it's like a whole bowl of bread as compared to like a steak and like great baked potato with everything in it, and a great beer to go with it. This is just a thing of bread. It's just
It'll
stuffing.
fill you.
Yeah,
It'll
so-
fill you, but it's not going to be any good.
I have read about half of this, maybe three quarters of this. Okay, so I'm almost done. But what is mostly going on is we are setting up the next storyline. This is not the end of World War She-Hulk. This is the beginning of, and it's classic if you like the Avengers, they're getting a new team together because Thor's got problems. She-Hulk is off running around doing her stuff. Blade's doing his stuff. So the people that were part of the team are no longer part of the team, or at least for right now they aren't. And so they're trying to get like other members together. Meanwhile, the bad guys are getting their team together. I thought it was pretty good, what I've read so far.
One of the problems is that this was so going back and forth. There wasn't one cohesive story. It wasn't one cohesive narrative, which was the problem. And like, I really think if Jason Aaron had focused mostly on Doctor Doom and him getting his band together, this would have been a solid comic.
Right.
But this was jumping back and forth. It's just a mess.
I don't really like the Million BC thing, but I do appreciate that. Did Kazar make it on the team? I haven't got to that point yet, so I'm hoping he does.
Maybe. I forget.
Not this Kazar that's like reborn with stupid power. Oh, no, that's his son. I'm not a big fan of that. And let's get some good Kazar action. Or some people say Kazar.
Yeah. It's Kazar.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pronounced Kazar, and in his own run, which is going on right now, is a little strange.
Little is
it's a little strange. It's sort of he's resurrected, but he's not quite all there, and he has powers, and he doesn't understand what they are, and he's wearing clothes that are mimetic, unstable, bioorganic nanite things.
He wears a fucking loincloth. That's Kazar. There, we're done.
He's got a saber-toothed tiger and a hot redhead.
He's Marvel fucking Tarzan with a saber-toothed tiger that bangs Marvel Red Sonja.
This guy's way better. Okay.
His son is in league with the main villain, but he doesn't want to tell his parents because he thinks his parents are too old-fashioned.
His parents are dead. Why?
No, everybody's alive.
No, his son, Kazar's son, was it Matthew? I think his name is.
Yeah.
His son is in league with whatever the villain is, and it's just weird.
Not Daddy and Mom Plunder.
Yeah.
Kazar Plunder.
Kazar Jr.
He's literally Marvel Tarzan with a saber-tooth banging Marvel Red Sonja. There.
Oh, he becomes a Herald of Galactus in this one? Awesome.
Yes.
At least we get Burn Era She-Hulk back, okay? Instead of that weird roided out Hulk with long hair. I
don't really have a problem with Namor bending the knee. That guy was a big old fucked up this last time. He almost sent like
Namor is too arrogant to bend the knee to anybody.
Bullseye.
All his fish people were attacking America and the world, and that sucked. He couldn't keep his dudes together, which is common among fish people. And he really, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't even have
if a celestial showed up in the ocean, Namor would say, "Screw you, I'm gonna punch you in the face."
Except for the fact that she saved all of their lives. And
Namor would never say someone is better than him. Doesn't matter who it is. He would never say you're a much better person than me. Like
Namor
bullshit.
Gets it on with crazy people, in Hickman.
Narcissistic arrogance is the core of that character.
Well, this is the one time he hasn't done that, so it's way more monumental.
Yeah, it's also a complete departure from the character and an admission.
Dude lost his people. They went out. They stepped out the door. They're like, "See you, Namor." They're like, "Get the F out of here." No, you know what? We'll go over here. We'll go to the slums and build this place up and leave you with nothing.
Namor wouldn't care. He would go find Sue Stormy and say, "Let's go repopulate."
Well,
exactly.
That might be.
Namor, even he could be faced. He is so quintessentially narcissistic and egotistical, and refuses to possibly believe. He just would never accept it under any circumstances. Literally, his entire
he would have died if it wasn't for her being there.
No, he would have. He'd be like, okay, and you're all wrong, and then you're going to be begging me to come back.
No. She sucked up all the gamma radiation with her crazy power and whatnot, and nobody died as a result of it. So he owes her, and in the very least, get on your damn knee, boy.
No,
she's part of the surface world. She was the reason the bomb was there to begin with.
Yeah.
No, that's the Russians. Man.
It doesn't
They're
matter.
the reason.
It does not matter how much mental gymnastics that Namor
Dude,
has
she
to go
went through
to not
hell
bowing to
becoming the
anyone.
Red She-Hulk, so that she, which was the master plan. And by the way, issue 49 I thought was at first trash, and then I reread it to get prepared for this. I really liked that issue a lot. There was a lot of different voices going on in that comic book, and you kind of had to pay attention. But I thought issue 49 was excellent.
Did Jimmy replace Yule this week?
No, bullshit. I'm bringing up facts. I'm not bringing up feelings. Okay.
Yeah, facts don't care about your feelings, Doc. Kenneth Daly has to say, "Amen, 750. At least we got sexy She-Hulk back."
Hell yeah, she looks good, and she was in a lawyer outfit too, defending
She was
herself.
buck naked.
She almost got a little crazy there after that, that performance. So gotta watch out.
It only took a Disney Plus show to make it happen.
Exactly.
Jason, you better figure this out fast.
All right, Josh, did you read Avengers 750? I know sometimes you put yourself through hell in preparation for this show.
I was a bad student. I did not read the assignment, and I will partially blame Drew for that, because I had it there to read, and then I watched their video, and I was like, you know what? Fuck Wes. He keeps making me read this garbage. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it this week.
It's important.
I will get to it. I will get to it. I am behind, but yeah, no, I did move it. I did move it much lower on my reading stack, and I was like, oh dear God, oh man. Okay, we're gonna drop this down about like 8 comics. Okay, let's make it 12.
That's the reason why I haven't read any of the Fear State, because of those guys. You guys.
after Wes made me read Trial of Magneto, Wonder Woman, Historia.
You were gonna read Trial of Magneto anyway.
Exactly.
So
no, I wasn't.
Nothing to do with me.
Yeah,
nope.
Right.
And no, fuck that. I have no interest in reading that. And then Phoenix Song Echo, or Echo Phoenix Song, whatever the shit it's called. I'm like, you know what? I just can't do any more shitty comics. I'm not reading Avengers 750. You can put a gun to my head, just pull the trigger.
Maybe it was the one for you, Doc.
Nope.
You had sexy She-Hulk. It's so weird that comic, Drew. It's almost like Jason Aaron took all the bits that didn't work and all the stuff that he's been doing for the last 3 years, and he said, you know what? That's a comic book. We're just gonna throw it all in there.
And not just that, he's doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on it. Like, this is going to happen. I am going to make this happen. And Valkyrie, despite not having a popular series, she will be an Avenger. I will make her popular. You will learn to love her. It's like,
that's the perfect place for her, though, I think, rather than having her own book.
Well, you can't have Thor right now, so you need a replacement. I guess you got to have an Asgardian.
No. The proper place for
isn't an Asgardian.
Usually it's Hercules, right?
The proper place for her is about to be over in Defenders, getting killed by the real Valkyrie, and then we just move on with our lives.
Also, don't forget the Avengers had Gilgamesh at one time, and that wasn't any good.
that was a weird era when they had the Sue and Reed and Cap and Gilgamesh. That was a weird time.
I'm sorry.
So right now we are at 56 likes for this live stream. We've got over 200 live viewers. So if you want to support the channel and you would like to just give us a little thumbs up, we would definitely appreciate that. Let everyone know that we're having a fun conversation about Avengers 750 here. And we got a good nerd fight from Kenneth Daly coming up as well.
I mean, I think just in general with 750, it's in a roundabout way. It seems very echoey, or no pun intended, or reminiscent of what Bendis is doing with Justice League, in the sense that he's just taking characters from all over the place, especially characters that he has a personal investment in, or the publishers have a personal investment in, to try and highlight, and just stuffing them in the book. I mean, nobody cares about Naomi. I'm sorry. If you're a fan of Naomi and you love Naomi, go for it. More power to you. Nobody cares. This is DC side. Nobody cares about Naomi, but yet keeps getting front and center. You go over to Marvel, you get this big Avengers book that is, you could argue, is way overpriced and way overstuffed. But who's central? You've got Valkyrie, but not the real Valkyrie. You've got Echo, Phoenix Song Echo in there. What's the point? What's the point? Why are you highlighting these characters that don't have a track record of warranting their own title? Especially when I can't even get my Luke Cage series that's been unceremoniously canceled, and yet you're giving me a Echo Phoenix song title? I mean, what the heck is going on with Marvel that they can't prioritize their characters that have a genuine fan base, that have genuine fan interest? And it just seems like they're just taking the characters, trying to stuff them in to elevate them to maybe prop up the Disney Plus channels, or maybe to try and prop them up for some other reason. And it doesn't work. It doesn't flow.
But two things here. I think we've seen this problem for years now, that they're sacrificing, established characters for the sake of trying to boost these new characters. And I think we see it fails every single time because, readers don't want to see, if you diminish one line, it's not going to make your light shine brighter. And that's what comics publishers need to realize about these new characters. You can't diminish this character over here and hope that people are going to suddenly love this character. It never works. So yeah, we're seeing that. It doesn't surprise me. Naomi in particular, I'm so sick of reading Naomi stories, and this is coming from someone who actually really enjoyed that first Naomi book. I thought it was a really good book, but post that, it's been terrible. As for the Disney Plus shows, I think it's the opposite. I think they're hoping that Disney Plus shows will boost the comics, which again, we've complained, you have a film coming out, why don't you have these stories releasing? Why don't you have this character featured in books? So I think we got to be careful about how we argue that.
Well, Maya Lopez doesn't have the Phoenix Force in Disney.
Oh no, 100% agree. 100%.
A little bit different.
She never does. But I
we do have a question from. I'm sorry. Yeah. Andrew B asks, so who's the bigger narcissist, Namor or Doom?
Now that's a throwdown.
Mm-hmm. Well, you'll get in there. Sounds like you got.
That's all I need to say. I don't know.
Let's get ready to rumble.
now that's a fight. Figuring out who the narcissist is. What I'd rather do is figure out all the people that could be on that level and let them all go at each other rather than just two people. Reed Richards might he's definitely a narcissist,
Well, yeah, Tony
he's into
Stark.
himself. Yeah. There's all sorts of people.
Just watch. We'll see the narcissist wars a year from now. Thanks, Yul. Thanks for bringing that in.
I got an answer for this question that you maybe not expect. Namor is the bigger narcissist. He thinks he's better than everyone. He thinks he's perfect in every single way. Doom is not a narcissist, but he is a supremely arrogant individual. And the reason I say he's not narcissistic is because he wears the mask. He wears the armor because he thinks he's hideous and deformed and everything else. So he's got those flaws in here that he acknowledges and he tries to hide. So I think if you're going to spread it out, Namor is more the narcissist. Doom is more just an uber arrogant individual.
Yeah, he does. Also, Doom also, he says
he's got his own country and he does things for his people.
Exactly. He says he does things for his people. They have long ass soup lines, but
Kenneth Dowling, Josh Kenneth Dowling is asking you, who in your opinion are the best writers working in comics, Marvel, DC, independent? As an aspiring creator, who should I be studying?
Honestly, we've mentioned Venditti. I think he's an excellent writer. In my opinion, a lot of your better writers aren't writing comics right now. At least not for the mainstream comics. But I would say look at Venditti, look at Tomasi. I would say go back, look at Peter David. He's got a book right now, but Peter David, and there's different ways of looking at this. Different writers are good at different things. I would love to see comics go back to the traditional type of storytelling where you have runs that feel like runs, where you get a good crop of 20, 40, 50, 60 issues that all kind of you can have your smaller story arcs, but get the longer arcs. But those are just a few. It's controversial, but I think Jeff Johns is pretty solid most of the time. There are good writers out there. We're just not seeing much of them.
If you want to look at a writer that has been smart, focused on one genre, Ed Brubaker. He knows what his thing is, and he hits his audience. He knows exactly what they want, and he caters directly to them. And I think that's the mark of a really good writer, is you have to understand who you're writing your comic for.
Ron V. I'm telling you, he is the next big superstar. I guarantee it. He is
agreed
there.
Gabe does not agree. What you got to say, Gabe?
No,
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not on the Ram V train. I'm sorry. I know some people love him. Ram V. his Swamp Thing run is wow. That is a lot of decompression right there. He buys into that
The
a
Future
lot.
State Swamp Thing is good though.
Future State Swamp Thing was okay, but then you were limited to just those couple of issues. If you look at this current run, you're at issue 9, I think, at this point. 10 is just about to come out next week, and you introduce a brand new Swamp Thing with a brand new host body in Levi Kamei, and you basically know nothing about that main character up until you get to about issue 9. That is decompression of an absurd degree, and I can't get behind writers that think that that's okay.
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. We'd say we've learned a lot about his family. We've learned a lot about the Indian culture and the forest there. We were learning a lot about it along the way, and we're kind of growing with the character. And what does stink, I mean, we were expecting this to be, I think, 12 issues or whatever. And so I guess he only had a small window. He probably wasn't.
It was supposed to be 10 for his first season. Now it's been extended to 16.
Yeah, 16. Yeah. So I think he only had a small window to really explore this story, which, I mean, I'm having a lot of fun with it. Granted, I mean, you can see it as decompressed, but I've had a blast with it. But I think now he's got more issues now, so he can really spread out the story and probably tell the story he wants to tell. So I'm hoping it'll pick up in the next few issues.
But I'm also wondering about that switch too, because originally it was supposed to be 10 issues and then a second season, which would presumably be another 10. But then it got cut back, and now the first one is extended 16. I'm wondering if they pulled back on the second season and just gave him a longer first season, because he couldn't quite tell the story in a respectable period of time.
Maybe, and I mean, the fan reaction for it has been great. So maybe, I mean, we'll never know. We'll probably never really know the circumstances about what was here, unless maybe years from now when we ask him, so what was going on with this? What was the original plan for this?
Yeah. Doc says Namor is the biggest narcissist. Doom recognizes mistakes and corrects them. Namor does not. There we go. We've got MVP Maxfield, Vaughn Priestley. You're likely to see him next weekend right here on the Comics Aficionados. I was on his channel a couple weeks back. If you have not seen that, that was a very good video. He says he met Daniel Warren Johnson yesterday. Coolest and most genuine dude in comics. Do y'all have a favorite Daniel Warren Johnson storyline or comic? Thanks, guys. I absolutely do. It's actually the Beta Ray Bill story, but he's got Murder Falcon as well.
The Superman Red and Blue story. Yeah, the Superman Red and Blue short story he did,
so good.
Number 5. Yeah, one of the best best short Superman stories ever. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to echo Murder Falcon. It was the first thing that I read from him, and I didn't expect much, so it really caught me off guard, and I loved it. And then Beta Ray Bill as well, just excellent work.
At New York Comic Con, he had some little. He did like these Old Man Skywalker little mini comics, where it's just him drawing Old Man Skywalker just plowing through things like Akira style, just through the Empire. It is amazing.
You were going to jump in there, Gabe. What were you going to say about Daniel Warren Johnson?
No, I was just echoing the same sentiment. Beta Ray Bill was great. I love Beta Ray Bill. I know some folks have. What was the other one he did? What was it? Wonder Woman Scorched Earth. I mean, some folks have. Yeah, some folks have some mixed reactions to that, and I can understand where he was going, even though maybe the execution wasn't quite there. But Beta Ray Bill would be one of my top titles for this year. I mean, it was just
he
that
made
great.
Scourge way cooler than any writer I've ever seen.
Scourge was the gem of that series. I loved every single panel he was in.
Yeah. Do you have an answer there, Yul?
Yeah, I do. Extremity from Image. It was a 2-volume book. It's like 12 issues. Very, very good. If you like sci-fi action and all sorts of like family drama, it's interwoven just like you'd imagine Daniel Warren Johnson's other stuff is. You know, there was a lot of feeling in that Beta Ray Bill comic also. You know, his relationship with Scuttlebutt was obviously very apparent, and you know, he does it in kind of a dude way. So yeah, I like his stuff a lot. And so Extremity is kind of that way also. It's a female lead. She lost her hand. Art is really a big deal to the people of this tribe, and they're scavengers for you know, higher tech equipment, and they get beaten down all the time. It's good.
Doc, did you have a favorite Daniel Warren Johnson story?
No, actually I have. I think I've only read maybe one thing by him. I don't have any problem with him. His art style, and
you don't like indie art. We know.
I'm not really into it. So So I've just kind of skipped a lot of the stuff that he's done. I don't have any issues.
There's nothing wrong with that, Doc.
Yeah.
What were you going to say there?
I was just going to say, we're just talking about writers to watch. I think the two Johnsons are people to watch. You got Daniel Warren Johnson. I think that the test for him is going to be to see how diverse he can be. And then you have Philip Kennedy Johnson, who I think has shown immense diversity. And I think we're just seeing like the tip of the iceberg of what he's going to deliver for the comic industry.
But DWJ might just do whatever he wants anyway.
Yeah.
His art, because he does work on paper, is very it's a good deal for him. He's making good money, I'm sure. And like you said, he does those minis. He goes to conventions. Nobody even knew who he was, and he was selling that shit. And
he was Wonder Woman
jealous.
Dead Earth. Scorched Earth is I think a Alien book, right?
Alien Scorched Earth, yeah, sounds about right. I think that's
what it is.
Yeah, that might have been a Dark Horse book he might have drawn.
It was really good.
Yeah, I got them mixed up.
Oh no, that was Stocco, I think that did.
Oh, James Stocco, yeah, another great art. Yes, another great story.
Like the last really good Alien comic that's been released.
Dude, DWJ doing an Alien comic book would be awesome.
That'd be nuts.
But Phil Kennedy Johnson's the one doing the Alien book now.
It's too many. You put them together on one book, and it would fill up the credits on the cover.
Well, it'd be better. It'd be better than Sal LaRocca just tracing photographs of his Aliens action figures.
What do you think the best Salvador LaRocca was? I mean, there was
Iron Man. I would say Iron Man.
No, I would say either Extreme X-Men or Fantastic Four with Chris Claremont.
Yeah. I think his Ghost Rider actually was probably better. It was a lot less photo. He didn't do it quite so much.
We've
got a question from Lane Graber. I think this one's right up Gabe's alley. He said, who had a worse character assassination punchline in her backup story or John Kent in Superman Son of Kal this year? Who had their money-making potential destroyed?
Yara Floor.
Yara Floor, I would agree with that. That Yara Floor I thought was the best thing to come out of Fear State, and I had high hopes for that series. Future State. Oh, can't get these.
Whatever.
Yara Floor was the best thing to come out of Future State, in my opinion, and I had high hopes for that series, and it's just falling apart. I don't know where it's going. But as far as the comment there from the super chat about which character had the worst time of it,
it's hard to beat.
I think I got to go with John Kent. I think I got to go with John Kent, especially when we look at that hair in the back half of the last issue, because Punchline was sort of. I looked at Punchline as sort of a Harley Quinn 2.0 when she first came out in a lot of ways, but there was some genuine improvement. I thought I'm sick. I got to be honest with you. I'm sick to death of Harley. I'm just sick to death of Harley and all the shenanigans. And look how silly I am.
I'm sick of Deadpool.
Look how silly I am, and everything's about how silly I can be. There's a difference between being a good character, a thoughtful character, a character you can build on, and just a character who's popular because she's cute or funny or interesting or whatever you want to say. Harley's in that latter camp, and they recognize her popularity, but they just don't do anything with her to make her something that you can put some meat on that bone. Superman Jonathan Kent, just when you were back on the Super Sons and he was de-aged, and just from the beginning, there was just so much potential. You had everything there. It was in the palm of your hand that you could do something that would last for years. And then you aged him up. Then you start with all the weird gender controversies, and you do all these things to it, and you just took all that potential and just flushed it down the toilet.
Yep.
So if I say who had the
jaws of victory.
Yeah, if you just say which of the two characters, they both had good starts, but Punchline really never got over that hump of just separating herself from being just another sidekick. But John Kent had a universal potential, and they just torched it.
Yeah.
So if you had to say which one had the potential, but got the rawest deal out of that, it has to be John Kent.
Completely agree.
We got Luca Fiorani here with €5. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Can we say that Marvel is not shining through comics currently? Would you guys agree with that statement? Yes, I would. Would you agree with that, Doc?
Yes, I think that this is probably as clear as day. That I don't think there's really anybody that could truly dispute that. I mean, there's some shills. There's some shills that can. Sorry, Yul, I don't mean to call you a shill.
Hey, man.
But
I love comics, and I understand that not everything's for everybody, but I think Marvel and all the other companies desire to shine through something other than comics. Unfortunately, all the people working in comics ain't making dick right now, and that's the problem. All the other shine is going to someone else making money off other people's sweat.
See, I don't even think it's I don't even think it's a not everyone's not going to like everything. That's way further down the line than I'm thinking. There's not really much that's for anyone at this point. There's at least anybody in actual quantity. You get a bunch of books.
We see that in a lot of stuff. Nobody really knows the metrics for all those streaming services, and because ratings aren't what they used to be back in the day, and they never really were.
Somebody's a WWE apologist. I see it.
That has nothing to do with it. There's no reason why square pegs need to be taken off the air. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. And you know what? I'll tell you about apologists. Meltz talked about the Canadian demo. That's how bad it was for Dynamite this week. Think about that.
It happens.
The
I'm
Canadian
not demo. That was a.
And they go up.
If it was
higher
a WWE
than 45.
show, it would have been fantastic. By AEW standards, it was subpar.
I'm just telling you what I fell asleep to.
Common Sense says, I believe DC ignored Yara Flor because Yara Flor's CW show was shelved. It would be better if she was an HBO Max original.
Probably would be
there.
Yeah.
I would just say, just focus on telling her comic book story first.
Yes.
And then let's do the show after that.
Just focus on finding an actress with a great ass. That's it. That's all you got to do. And then just have her walk away the entire show.
What's her name? Like Ava Mendez? What's her name? From she was in she played Will Ferrell's wife and the other guys, whatever.
Ava Mendez.
She's a little too old.
Mendez, yes, Ava Mendez.
She can't be Wonder Girl. She's definitely a little
she's too mature.
She's very womanly.
Oh yeah, I forgot she's a teenager. We can't. No.
Yeah, Doc, you're being weird on the air.
I sorry guys, I completely forgot she was supposed to be a teenager.
She's college.
Whoops, I didn't even realize that. Never mind.
Yeah, she would have had a better chance if the show got picked up, but.
Well, I mean, if we're being honest, like the hype that started with her was mainly just her design and the fact that she was Spanish. But even the moment she was featured in Future State, people were already like, because she wasn't consistent from story to story. She showed up in like a couple.
She was
of
in
different
three
books.
stories, three different characters.
Yeah, and she seemed like a completely different character in each one. And then, even though they announced she was getting her own title, it took forever before it launched. So they sunk that ship before it ever started, and that's completely on DC.
Yeah, it's been forever in between issues too, which is
these are
DC.
Joelle Jones on that book. It takes a while. But if she's not on it all the time, it's a lot less important. She would be the kind of person you would want to put one of these fat ass books out and wait for. And then spend $10 on if she was doing the entirety of the book. I think that's also a problem with that series.
Also, potentially a controversial opinion. DC needs to stop letting Joelle Jones write. She's not the best writer.
Oh, man.
Have her co-write.
Have her
co-write, fine. Either. But writing, she is not a good writer. Art, incredible. Like her art sells her books.
Well,
the plot structure on Wonder Girl is all over the place. I mean, half the stuff doesn't even make sense of what's going on. And then because she got so busy, they start transitioning in like a backup artist to fill in some of the scenes. And the quality is night and day, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. You can't put a backup artist that's up against Joelle Jones and expect it not to stick out.
I have a suspicion that one of the reasons why Yara was not, in addition to the show getting axed before it happened, I think that they don't like the fact that the majority of her fan base were men. She was designed to be for women, and most of her fan base tends to be men.
Most of the there's
Sorry.
a lot of men that read comics.
All right, guys.
You know, it's a good thing.
We're not supposed to be on Yar for this long. We do have a nerd fight that is supposed to be coming on. This is directly from our good friend Kenneth Dowling. He wanted to know who would win in a fight between Dr. Fate and Doctor Strange. Doc, you are the Marvel shill. Who wins, Dr. Fate or Doctor Strange?
Oh, I'm gonna have to go with Doctor Strange on this one, mostly because I'm not really that big of a fan of Doctor Fate. The little bit that I've read of him, his, I guess, magical abilities are rudimentary. I mean, they're pretty good, but I don't think he's anywhere near the master or sorcerer supreme level. I mean, I just don't. Nah, Strange.
Josh, you gonna let him talk like that about?
Well, Drew looks like he has opinions, so I'm curious.
All right,
to see.
get in there, Drew.
So I'm thinking, Doctor Strange initially he would win initially. He'll knock off that helmet of Naboo from Doctor Fate. Then that helmet is going to fly onto Doctor Strange. So really, I think the helmet of Naboo wins this fight more than anything.
Yep. I think that's a fair. One of the questions I was going to ask is one, which Doctor Fate are we dealing with? But two, I think it really comes down to Naboo versus whoever's wearing the helmet, and that's going to play a key role. I will agree with Doc. I do think Doctor Strange has a little bit more of a breadth, like width in his magic that's more well-rounded, if that makes any sense. It would be interesting.
What do you think, Gabe? You got any ideas on this one?
Well, if we're talking about which Dr. Fate, we have to go with the greatest Dr. Fate. Obviously, it's Detective Chimp Dr. Fate. So you got to make sure you pick the right one.
What
That's
about
obviously the greatest Dr. Fate.
What about nine?
If you had to pick which one would win, I would give it to Doctor Strange for one key reason. Dr. Fate with the helmet of Naboo is an avatar of the Lords of Order, right? So he plays by a very specific power set and a very specific set of structure and rules related to what is coming from the Lords of Order and how that all plays out. Doctor Strange, if he knew the stakes were high and he knew he had to win, he would play dirty.
Yeah,
he would bend them. He would bend his own moral code because sometimes, very much like Namor, he's a narcissist, right? And he knows he does what he does because he thinks he knows what's best. And he would bend the rules and he would play dirty to do what he had to do to knock that chimp in his helmet off the chair.
I just want 90s Dr. Fate with no helmet and like the mullet and the Ankh tattoo on his around his eye. That's the Fate that I just Fate.
That is exactly the type of comic book you think of. Really, I mean, everybody thinks it's a Liefeld Brigade knockoff version of whatever a comic might be. It's that comic book. Fate is the reason why the 90s stunk for so many people. Any Justice League that was out with like a bunch of metal armor, Task Force.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, sorry, whoever wrote it, it might have been Christopher Priest, but it was never going to be good. Those were the really bad books. And then the art was really bad also. What about the Lords of Order though? You deal with Fate, you have to deal with them also. Could Doctor Strange take them on? And not only that, Doctor Strange is just protecting us from all the shit that's out there. Dr. Fate's fighting it. You know what I mean? Isn't that something that could be said for Dr. Fate's favor?
I wouldn't put it past Strange to get to set up a deal with Dormammu and send him after the Lords of Order.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
He's making
if we're talking about alternate designs, how about Starman with a leather jacket and jeans wearing aviator goggles?
I think we need to take out Doctor Strange. Is really thankfully he's dead now.
Which Doctor Strange is it too? Because there was also like the early 2000s one with him wearing the mask the whole time. In that the Order comic.
Like in 1970.
Also the Doctor Strange or the Sorcerer Supreme that's also the Ghost Rider.
No, I'm talking about the one. No, this was straight Marvel Universe. It was in the early 2000s. I think it was a book called The Order.
He put that back on?
He had the mask and everything. Yeah, he
Was it
back in
Secret Defenders?
No, it wasn't in Secret Defenders. I think it was called
That's
The
another
Order.
book, by the way.
I believe it was called the Order.
The Order. I remember that. Was that a Matt Fraction book or something like that?
That was the second iteration of it.
I see.
There was an original iteration before Fraction was even in fucking comics. I don't remember what the hell it was. I think that was it, but it was not the Fraction version.
Kenneth Dowling says, and thank you so much for supporting the channel. Very generous. He says the Dr. Fate I meant is Kent Nelson, who has physical superhuman powers in addition to sorcery. This would be a great fight. I would go with Doctor Strange because he's very crafty and sneaky with magic. It sounds like you think he's a dirty backfighter. That's what everyone's going on here.
I think Doctor Strange can fight a bit too. Doesn't like Wong teach him like martial arts and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I believe there is.
I mean, I know
where he learns martial arts.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But he doesn't have
knock off that helmet.
Powers.
Just knock off that damn helmet, and yeah, Naboo wins.
What if he soldered it to his head? You know what I mean? It might be there permanently.
Like Doctor Doom.
That would be the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it sounds like there's no consensus here, but the expert Kenneth Dowling says it is Dr. Fate or I'm sorry, Doctor Strange actually would end up winning in the end. And if you like Kenneth Dowling, he's going to be back here on the channel to review Spider-Man No Way Home. So that week he'll be back here on the Comics Aficionados. I do want to say this. We got an update. We are almost to 100 likes on the video. I think we're at 93 right now. So if you want to get us over the hump, I'd really appreciate it. We're about 185 live viewers at the moment. So if you haven't given us a thumbs up, we would appreciate the support. Does anyone have anything else to say about Dr. Fate versus Doctor Strange?
They did this in Wizard Magazine many moons ago, I think.
Probably. They used to do these nerd fights all the time.
Dr. Fate's another character that deserves his own title.
Agreed.
I mean, if we're talking about characters that have been bunched for way too long, Dr. Fate's one of them.
I guarantee you we will see a Dr. Fate book within the next year, just since he's going to be in Black Adam. Like you're going to get some Dr. Fate material. Hopefully.
Does that mean we're going to get some Hawkman? That's what
I would hope so.
Hopefully.
But
just
hopefully
hope
they
for
just
that
get
Justice Society book.
Yeah,
that's what I would suggest.
Jeff Johns, Justice Society, that'd be great.
Oh, I mean, Jeff Johns has done it. I would love to see Venditti step into Justice Society.
Yeah.
Oh, that the Order, that one was Kurt Busiek and Joe Duffy back in 2002. And yes, Strange was wearing his mask again. It was a sequel. It was like the new it was the Defender or Secret Defenders that wasn't Secret Defenders because it had Gray Hulk, Namor, and Submariner and Silver Surfer in the book.
Fiend Machine says Death Battle already did this and had Dr. Fate winning. Mr. DC Comics is not impressed. He says, you people are only picking Strange because you don't know enough about Dr. Fate.
That's right.
He could be right.
DC Comics. Yeah.
I'm going to go back to what Drew said, though. It all depends on Naboo and depending on what happens with the helmet. Like that fight could go so many different ways, and it would be fun to write. It would definitely.
I've only read Dr. Fate if Giffen or those Paul Levitt Simonson ones are really good, but it's been a while. I should pull those out again.
Is that the one with the son and the mother were Dr. Fate?
No, well, the Giffen one eventually, the woman, but I don't think he's writing or drawing at that time. That's like McManus and DeMatteis, I think. Mm-hmm. This is just a mini series.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't get behind a superhero who can be defeated because he doesn't have a chin strap. So if that's your weak point, then I'm sorry, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
The Pepper Talk says the real fight is Dr. Fate versus Dr. Fauci. Current day controversy going in on there. I'm sorry, Doc. I talked over you.
I was going to say then, in which case, then you're by that argument, Magneto sucks because he wears a helmet and he could be.
That's not his source of most of his power. That's not the source.
No, but it's the source.
It shields him from Cerebro.
It shields him from the power of his greatest adversary, Xavier.
Right.
So he's still not depowered.
He's
more open to weakness now.
No. You knock his helmet off, and Xavier just is easily takes him out. I mean,
well, you got a point there, Doc. You're right. Magneto does suck.
hey, at least the Juggernaut's helmet's fucking bolted on.
Well, at least it's not part of X-Men Green.
Doctor Strange does know martial arts. Strange could make some protection spells, and he's a Marvel guy. That's why he's sticking with his team.
Damn
like,
right.
You don't want to be a homer, Kenneth. You don't want to be a homer. You know what I mean? You got to be objective on these things. You don't want to be the Marvel guy.
I'm a homer.
You are a homer.
Yep.
It's not a good look.
I make no bones about it either.
I was gonna say, going back to Kenneth's comment, I think this is why I'm in my mind. We do these and I get so caught up in my mind with what would happen. But the whole protection spell thing, see, that's where I think Dr. Fate would just blow right through it. Like that'd be a non-issue for him, in my opinion.
Right. Sounds like a man that's never blown through a protection spell. It's harder than it looks. All right, so let's move on to the next topic. We've got big news, I guess pretty bad news on the IDW front. I've actually heard this rumor for quite some time, really about the time that you talked about it, when the Magic the Gathering license went over to Boom Studios, that kind of the writing was on the wall that IDW would eventually lose the entire Hasbro license, which would include Transformers, would include G.I. Joe, My Little Pony, and other properties that they haven't worked with as much lately. Also, they're losing Star Wars. They're losing the Marvel action stuff. As a retailer, this does not portend good things for IDW, at least on the publishing side.
Yeah, when you're observing all these companies are going to Penguin Random House or Lunar, you're waiting for the big one to leave Diamond, because then you'll see what happens with Diamond. But IDW isn't the company. Regardless of like how many specialty books that they can sell over the year, if they care about the comics division, I don't know how they make money, really.
Well, they charged $9 for TMNT The Last Ronin.
All right, so that's a very good one. And then they've got that George Takei one and something else I can't remember.
March.
And it's like, yeah, and those are really from Top Shelf when they merged with IDW anyway. So I don't even think of those as IDW books. And only the Turtles one is, and only that because of it's kind of a gimmick. It's got Eastman on it, so it's got some relevance to the old people, and it's sweet. But the other Turtles isn't doing so great, I don't think. And you got to pay people for this. And the way I've always heard, which is, within the last few years, is that you have to get the whole Hasbro umbrella in order to be able to just print, do G.I. Joe. So even if you're not doing, and I don't know everything that's a Hasbro product.
Like Mask, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. So the one thing I was thinking, like, well, maybe Magic was able to go to Boom because it's technically part of WotC, a division of Hasbro, and they might like let that stuff go elsewhere. But IDW is doing Dungeons and Dragons, so unless these are books that they had that are allowed to print, it doesn't look good for them as far as on the Hasbro front, at least.
All right, we were backing up. We've got Common Sense says, what's your opinion of Khalid Nassour as Dr. Fate? He's a good character, in my opinion. He's naturally grown into the mantle.
Yeah. He is the Dr. Fate right now. I love that series. Mostly because Sonny Liu was doing the art though. And he's a genius. And to see him do any mainstream book was pretty cool. I liked how there were it wasn't just God, I'm so stupid. It's Egyptian mythology usually related with Dr. Fate, but I think this time it was Indian mythology, and that was pretty cool. So I thought it was a good series. I don't know what he's doing right now though. Bring back Kent.
Well, we just saw him with the Flash, right, Gabe? We got him in the Flash 7 or 776.
Was he the one that was in that one?
Yeah, Dr. Fate was. Yeah, he was the one that was in that one. Yep.
Awesome. Oh.
What are your thoughts on Khalid Nassour as Dr. Fate?
Yeah, I always like stories that can tap into ancient mythology and find new ways to spin it and to make it kind of fun or cool or imaginative or creative. So, right, historically, Dr. Fate has always been sort of, the Ankh, it's the Egyptian power, but really the source of the power is the Lord's order. So they could really, it would be interesting to me, and I think that teases it a little bit, is where you can show how the Lords of Order have been influencing mythology from every culture around the world through all periods of ancient time. So and not just Egypt. So I think if they can focus on those and just go back to maybe ancient China, maybe ancient India, maybe all these, or ancient, Europe and those kinds of things. And I always like when those stories. So I like that story. I like that version of Dr. Fate a lot, and I wish they would do more of that. And I think that's a lot of what was also very appealing about Venditti's run on Hawkman, is like trying to see how he plays out in different periods of time, and how the Hawkman character was set up in such a way that you could do that. And I think that's one of the big appeals for that character. I would just wish DC would do more of that. Unfortunately, that takes research and a writer who's willing to actually step up and do it, which is not something that's in big supply these days.
We got Kenneth Dowling. Good point of Dr. Fate smashing spells, Josh. I'm out, fellas. I have an event I'm heading to. Y'all take great care of yourselves. Peace. Well, thank you very much, Kenneth Dowling. And for once, Josh, you're right. It's not.
I know. It's about damn time. I'm still going to make my Doc is right t-shirt, though. I feel like it's
damn right.
The bootleg crap that nobody wants.
It might be a nice little Christmas present.
The Doc is right t-shirt is like the Empire comic event of t-shirts. You know what I mean?
Oh, fuck.
The Empire.
Nobody asked for it.
No. I am at least
the Age of
War
X-Men?
of the Realms. No,
I was
you're
thinking
the
more
Age of
Fallen
X-Men.
Angels or something like that. Either one doesn't matter.
Somewhere along the lines of Age of X-Man, War of the Realms.
War of the Realms.
Yeah. Oh, Outlawed. I am the Outlawed.
Yeah.
Outlawed. Okay, very good. I don't know if you
All
get
right,
to
Drew.
choose it.
What do you guys think about this IDW situation? I imagine you've heard some of these rumors as well. It sounds like they're picking up steam as of San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, so IDW, they had a good thing going there for a while. They really did, with Ghostbusters, Transformers.
Kind of
G.I.
ruined
Joe.
Ghostbusters by including the 2016 cast.
Like I said, for a time, and then it did. Like then they brought them in, and then it's like it nosedived. Literally, it did. You follow those sales trends. It nosedived as soon as they included them into the comics. But they wanted to focus on Winona Earp, Lock and Key, G.I. Joe Scarlet Strike Force. They doubled down on the message, the agenda, and then those sales tanked. And they scared a lot of the customers away. They pissed off a lot of the G.I. Joe fan base nation, from what they were doing. It's hard to get those fans back. And,
what do you guys see at Comics Leader? Are people coming in for those comics, or they've just kind of died?
I hate to say it, they've kind of died in my opinion. I mean, I can love Transformers Grimlock to the cows come home. I can preach about it all I want, but it is so hard to try to get someone to pick. Yeah, exactly. It is so hard. It's just, I just got to figure out, I get more creative in my reviews to push it, but people are just dead set on just, it's Transformers, it's Grimlock, it must be silly, but yeah, I don't know. Just they've lost faith a lot of the customers, I believe.
IDW's been in life support for like 7 years. Are we fucking shocked by this? I mean, real. No, I'm being.
I'm not
serious.
shocked.
We're just talking about what's happening, Doc.
Yeah, I know. I mean, they had like one decent quarter in the last 7 years. It was just a matter of time before they started losing everything. Nobody's going to stick with a sinking ship forever.
Well, some of their investors are, which I'm trying to figure that out. Which is crazy.
Hey, they're throwing good money after bad.
Yeah, they are. They really are, and it's just.
Jordan Fugate says, wasn't there a recent rumor that IDW might lose TMNT as well? Things are not looking good over there. I have not heard that rumor, but if they lose Hasbro, they lose Star Wars, they lose the Marvel action stuff, they're going to end up losing TMNT because it's a sinking ship, and they're not going to kind of keep it there. But I have not personally heard that rumor. Has anyone heard that rumor about IDW and TMNT?
No, but again, it wouldn't shock me because
No.
a lot of their stuff, they're not making a lot of money on most of their, and what little they are making on some of their properties, they're using it to afford the properties that aren't supporting themselves.
I would assume that the TMNT one, because it's the one that has some sales, that at least they like talk about, would be the one they'd want to keep over all of them, though. You know,
Well,
MLP
Star Wars has the best sales, the most consistent sales.
for them, the Star Wars
Yes.
Adventures. Oh, really?
Yes,
well, yeah, but
some,
I'm just
some
saying
reason the High
because of
Republic
last
stuff
one.
really is moving.
Wow, that's gonna
That's
be a
what I
bummer then. But Disney, I mean, I assume that they charge more for their properties than any other company. So how much they're actually able to make might be, you know, it just might be a clout thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so IDW Media Holdings is the umbrella company. It's a publicly traded company. So if you go back and look at their stock from, say, about 2 years ago, they were trading up in the $35 to $40 per share range. As of yesterday, they're down to $2.20.
That's probably
Well, their
bad.
credit rating went to basically where you couldn't lend them money anymore. That's where they
You
had
can't
to
even
do
lend the money
something-
anymore. So they are completely dependent upon investment firms and private investment.
Yes.
In private investments, right? So, and if you go back and you read their stockholder reports that they put out, I think it's quarterly, and you look at and in the report, it tells you what is their focus, what are they trying to do, over and over again in that report. And I've read the last several that have come out over and over again. They say we are 100% focused on media proliferation. I want to take my properties, whatever licensing I'm developing, I want to proliferate that into other media platforms. So basically, they're talking like we're writing for Netflix. It is a very nice way of saying we're writing for Netflix. But then if you look at what they've actually been able to accomplish with that media strategy, it's lock and key, which is okay. It's okay. They had a first season. I think they're in the second or the third, might be coming out. I don't recall.
Second season's coming out very soon.
Right.
Yep.
It was V Wars, which is like vampire stuff, and that got canceled almost right after the first season. And October Faction, which was sort of like Men in Black with monsters instead of aliens, and that also got canceled.
Oh, and they had Winona Earp was the other one on
Winona
Sci-Fi.
Earp on Sci-Fi.
Winona Earp Winona Earp was, I think, a transplant from network television over, and they've done some things there. So they had a fan base that they could capitalize on.
No, it was a sci-fi.
Yeah, it was like a Sci-Fi Channel thing. But if you look at all the other titles that they have access to, it's all licensed stuff that they can't translate. So they have to.
All their highest selling stuff. Yes.
Right, exactly. It's the TMNTs, it's the Marvels, it's the GI Joes, it's all these other things.
Star Trek.
They don't have. They have Star Trek. They have very little original property. That's why what you saw I think it was last month, they put out an announcement of like they're starting this line of all original comics, because then they're going all in. But their stock price is like it's if you bought IDW stock 2 years ago, it's worthless. It's completely worthless. So they have to build the comic, they have to publish the comic, they have to prove that comic is a viable idea for other media outlets, and I mean, you're talking about a near impossibility. And so,
Or they have to hire James Tynion, Scott Snyder, Jonathan Hickman to come in and write the comic, because then it has some type of credibility, and a lot of those things get picked up.
You could. I don't think they could afford it.
No, they couldn't.
Honestly, I don't think they could afford it.
They have too much invested in the license to invest in creative behind the license, because they'd have to. They would have to increase the sales like 2 to 3 times just to offset their increased costs. So no, look. IDW was founded by a bunch of guys that left Wildstorm whenever DC acquired them. And they were the guys that had kind of kept Wildstorm afloat by doing all the license stuff. Remember when like Warhammer was the biggest selling comic of like 1998 or something, and it's never been even recognized, even though it sold like over 500,000 copies. In the worst era, but they managed to keep Wildstorm afloat by doing all the license stuff. So when they left, they basically tried to repeat that same model, but as the entire company. And they never really made a company that had valuable product itself. They've never had any real IP. And at least they've tried literally every IP that they do have, as you guys mentioned, they've tried to turn into other media. But no, this is a company that took an aspect of what they were doing to help save another company for a while. They figured, okay, well, if we don't have this, I guess, black hole of money going out on company-owned IP that isn't selling right now, we would actually make a lot more money. They just didn't realize that it was a cyclical industry.
But what's more telling about that development as far as losing licenses, and there have been a number of announcements about them losing licenses. It wasn't just Hasbro. It's with Star Wars and Marvel Adventure and everything else. Is when Disney, Marvel, Lucasfilm, etc. pulled that license back and say, you're not going to publish this anymore. They didn't just pull it back because we're going to consolidate in-house. They pulled it back and then they gave it to Dark Horse.
Yeah.
That's the more telling piece of information, because what that says is that whatever was going on there, Disney and Lucasfilm and everything, they had basically lost confidence in IDW. So it wasn't to say we're going to bring this in-house because we want to do it in-house because we think we can get a better licenses deal. It was pulling it out because we think you are no longer a viable partner. We're going to go with this partner over here because they're going to do a better job for us. That's actually a more damaging statement than if they just pulled it back so they could publish it in-house with their existing publication staff.
Yeah, I agree. That's actually the point that I was going to make, is that the perception of that is what's the problem for IDW right now. Because it looks like at this point, I don't think they're going to gain much traction, if any traction, with their creator-owned or like their new original titles. So you'd almost want them to get another a book that's based on something. But I don't think companies are going to want to do that. I don't think they're going to want to go that route just because of how it looks. Having a couple of major companies pull out and say, no, this isn't worth it. And we talked about TMNT. You got to wonder if the people behind TMNT are looking at this as like a time bomb before they leave. So it's not good.
Absolutely. And as Gabe was talking about earlier, as far as the quarterly statements, they've been talking as far back as like a year, maybe a little bit more than that they were preparing the company to offer it, for sale, kind of like what Dark Horse is doing right now to sell to like a studio in Hollywood. So you have ready-made IP. Unfortunately, they just don't have much because they concentrated on licenses. And they've had cool stuff. Like the Highest House was great. No publicity, no marketing behind it because they had to market G.I. Joe and Transformers. The Kill Lock was fantastic. No marketing behind it because, they're marketing TMNT. So they've had these cool books. And, Kanto has definitely been a success. But they've really been limited as far as being able to get any, kind of momentum as far as creator-owned stuff. That's really, was really killing them.
I think IDW's future is literally to be doing the little bit of like YA type stuff that they were doing for Scholastic in the book market. And what they do in comics is literally just only keep doing the artist editions. Those giant oversized.
I don't think they have a future because they're losing so much money on the entertainment side.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they have a future, it's just in that. That's where the company ends up in 2 years. Just kind of the way Fantagraphics. That's going to be their model.
Yeah. Who's going to have a worse 2022, IDW or Valiant?
Ooh, I kind of think Valiant, to be honest.
No, again, Valiant has their own characters at least.
Yeah, but they're not even putting out a monthly book. They're putting out their books like quarterly. They might put out 1 or 2 comics in a month.
They still have the backing of that big friggin' Chinese. There's still Sony and that Chinese film company.
Yeah,
because they're owned by yeah. So they're. I think that they're going to have a terrible year, but nobody's going to buy them. And if they get swallowed up, oh well. If they just vanish, oh well. That's going to be the way of
they're both
the market looks
in very
like
bad shape.
But IDW doesn't have anybody that's backing them. That's my point. Like no big corporation, no big media holding company. So I think that makes it worse.
They're definitely for sale, kind of like Dark Horse right now. So it's an interesting landscape as far as independent comics. All right, so let's move on to, we got 2 more topics. Let's get into these DC Comics future stories. It was the 5th release week for DC Comics here this month, Drew, and we got a lot of annuals, as you would expect. We've got some other things out there. We got the prelude to Shadows of the Bat. That's going to be the weekly Batman event in Detective Comics, right on the heels of Fear State. We've also got the announcement of a Shadow War event involving Robin in 2022. We also appear to have gotten word that G. Willow Wilson will be writing Poison Ivy in 2022. What else we got out there? We have Amanda Walters is now in possession of all the equipment that the magistrate, I believe, had. And I imagine that'll be used for the Suicide Squad. Which one of these do you think has the most potential? Which one are you looking for as far as the future stories that DC was seeding within this week?
I will say for me, the Amanda Waller aspect is the more interesting part, because Suicide Squad has been a lot of fun so far, in my opinion. It's been terrific. I mean, with having no Harley Quinn involved at all, it's been amazing. And what they've done with
Robbie Thompson?
Yes, it's been really good. Yeah, it's been good. And reading the synopsis for the Shadow of the Bat, it just sounds redundant again. Everything we just went through this past year, it just sounds very cyclical again.
That prelude in Detective Comics Annual was not promising.
No, it was just no. It's just, I guess, in with the new boss, same as the old boss. But the Robin story does sound interesting. The Shadow War with that, but there's really
sounds a lot like Shadows of the Bat. Why are they using the same word for events?
Lack of creativity and a rush to get that story up, to get that title out there.
Yeah, as far as Shadow goes, they're trying to play on the Shadow of the Bat title it used to run, and they've done that shtick too much lately. And then this whole Shadows War thing, like, I'm not excited about it because we've got different iterations of this quite a few times. Like, you kind of had this same concept when you had Talia create Leviathan under Morrison and kind of take out Ra's out of the picture. You had it again under Tynion in Detective Comics when he had the League of Assassins and the League of Shadows. We're getting it again, kind of inspired by Tynion again. All these future stories are all Batman related, and I feel like the Batman stuff is where they're so off course they need to just stop, regroup, and then come back. But I'm not excited about anything.
About anything? You're not excited about Poison Ivy from G. Willow Wilson? What are you excited about, Jay? Negative. He's shaking his head.
Like, I'll just say, I think G. Willow Wilson could do something good. They need to pick a lane with Poison Ivy. Like, every time she pops up, they're taking her a different direction. She's an anti-hero. No, she's misunderstood. She could be a hero. Oh, let's make her sympathetic. No, she's a straight up villain. Oh, yeah. Like, just, you got to land somewhere. And as much as I hated Heroes in Crisis, I will say Heroes in Crisis set Poison Ivy up for a fresh start and a new venture for them to just wipe the slate clean and go forward. And they already screwed it up. Like, they screwed it up immediately after it by putting Jody Hauser on the Harley and Ivy book, which was god-awful, kind of changed directions again with Fear State, and now it looks like they're kind of even changing directions again. Like, I'm just done.
That's what happens when you don't have a plan.
Oh, 100%.
Fucking meander.
There is no direction, right? This whole, like, everything matters is ruining comics.
But nothing matters, yeah.
Yeah.
When everything matters, nothing matters.
That the firings, when they kind of cleared house with the editorial staff, that they're just like, can you imagine being a Batman group editor? You wouldn't be able to keep track of any of this.
I think Ben's given up at this point.
Yeah. I mean,
I think they just build on what they have and what they can copy. I mean, the whole Shadow War thing sounds like a discount version of Quarter Vowels, to be blunt. I think it's just going to be more of, here's this secret organization of all these assassins, and they're going to come in, and there's got to be some mystery to figure out what they're all about and what they're trying to do. And then when there's going to be some big major conflict they resolve. I mean, if that's what you want, just go back and read Quarter Vowels. As far as G. Willow Wilson and writing on Poison Ivy, if Harley Quinn shows up in the first issue, I'm out. I'm out.
Well, you know she's gonna show up.
He has
If she shows up in the first issue and it's all this, existential angst about being together and how can we be apart, and I'm really part of the green now, and I'm still waiting for somebody to kind of give me a good book where we explore the green and maybe do something interesting with the green now that Poison Ivy is part of the green with Floronic Man and Swamp Thing and everything else. And then they spend half the time eating ice cream and with cookie dough and crying over, how bad their life sucks living in a 1-bedroom apartment. I'm out.
Yeah.
So do something interesting with the character. Figure out what that character wants to be. And again, I'm going back to the comment that we made earlier is we don't need writers, we need storytellers. Tell me a story about Poison Ivy. Make her go on a journey, a beginning, a middle, and end. Know where you're going to end up and then make it interesting all the way through. I know that sounds like a tall order, but we've been doing it for centuries, for thousands of years, since the dawn of humanity.
Look,
keep doing that.
Gabe, all I'm going to say is be careful about writing a DC Comics review where you're talking about story structure and needing a beginning, a middle, and an end, because they might call you a mansplainer. Just saying.
You're a mansplainer?
I had DC Editorial reach out to my boss complaining that I was mansplaining because I did a review breaking down story structure and how you need a 5-act structure. And I was like, if you can't do a 5-act structure, just do a freaking 3-act structure. And I literally got a note saying I was mansplaining.
The proper response to that is kindly lick my fucking scrotum.
No, what I did is I sent multiple other reviews where I talked about that same note where men had written the issues instead of a woman. But you're completely right. You need to make sure your story has a purpose. You need to make sure your characters have a purpose, because it's kind of twofold right now. We have stories that are going nowhere. We have characters that aren't established and they serve no point. They're just there to be there to make people happy. And that's why you're getting all these duplicates. You're getting duplicate Superman. You're getting duplicate Wonder Woman. You're getting duplicate Bat sidekicks. And none of them are fitting the mold that they were meant to fit. Each of them had a purpose when they were created. They should still have that purpose.
The problem, the thing you're missing here is they are trying to satisfy everyone at the same time, including the people that are impossible to satisfy. If you give someone a story, if you give them a structure, if you give them an arc, if you define them, then that means they are not something else. By being something, that means they are not something else. The idea at this point from these publishers are to make these characters as nebulous and undefined as humanly possible so that they can twist them, bend them, fold them, and never piss off anybody that is the type of people that just scream about their comics, and so that they can fit them into literally any situation. Any comic, any video game, any cartoon, and it doesn't matter, because when they are defined as nothing, that means they can be whatever you want them to be in that moment. And you don't have structure, you don't even have an idea. You just have a physical design. That's it. You have a picture of something. Yes, it's a platform, not a character.
I'm going to agree with Doc, and I'm going to use a slightly different example than Poison Ivy, and because I can't let my disdain for Harley Quinn go too far without thinking about it again. I actually liked Harley Quinn in Future State, what they were doing when she was in prison and Crane was there, and she was trying to sort of help him to capture the villains during Future State. I thought there was a lot of potential there, but what happened was about halfway through, they flip-flopped, where she turned into this sort of Hannibal Lecter-ish type of character, where she was in prison and telling Crane how to capture all these supervillains. Then once she got out, and it was never explained how she got out or why, she was just out. All of a sudden, it was silly Billy, I'm jokey Harley, and it was and all of that went out the window. It's like it was sort of a crisis of identity. She didn't know who she was. But what I did like, and I'll kind of go backpedal a little bit on Harley, is I liked that concept of Harley being a sort of master criminal uber psychologist who would get in people's heads and figure out what made them tick. And that could be spun up into making her probably one of Gotham's more dangerous criminals, because she could become the master manipulator, sort of a different type of puppet master, where she could figure out what made all the crazy psycho criminals tick and manipulate them to her will for whatever plan she had in store. So there's an idea. I'm sort of scripting, I'm script doctoring as we go. But the idea is there are things you can do with these characters if you pick a direction, you pick a destination, you stick with it, and you make it happen. When they keep, just as Doc says, and I'm agreeing with him on this, is when you keep flip-flopping about who they are. Is Poison Ivy the good Poison Ivy and then the evil Queen Poison Ivy? Are they coming back together? Is she being regrown from a seed? And is she like some sort of source of a drug that Safe or is using to control the mind? You want to crumple it and just throw it away. Just stop. Figure out who the character is and then stick with it. Make that character real. Breathe life into that character. Make that your mission. Do that, and then you're going to be in a much better place.
Agreed. That's what I meant by these characters have a foundation and a platform. Like they have a basis of what define them, and that's what they need to go back to. Specifically with Harley, like I think DC needed to take one of two options: either kind of build on what Stefan Sajak did with Harleen and just go into that psychologist route, which is exactly what you're talking about. I think it'd be fresh for her. I think it'd be really good. Or if you want to have this anti-hero type thing, you need to approach it kind of like Tom Taylor did in Injustice. For me, those are the only two good routes forward, and we're not getting them.
She's trying to do the anti-hero thing in her current title, and honestly, the best thing about the current run on Harley is Kevin. Is the big deal with the neck tattoo. He actually has a hero's journey. He has an arc. Yeah. He's being developed and grown. It's actually a compelling story. But he's almost in his own comic separate from Harley. I mean, she's utterly forgettable in the current run.
I would literally buy a Kevin comic.
Yeah. We got Chris from Comics Exposed says, even when Doc is right, he's wrong. That is absolutely correct. Doc is wrong. If you ain't first, you're last. Thank you very much. I don't think you really wait, we got one more super chat. Harley was good in Batman the Animated Series, and then it went bad. That is a pretty good summation of the character arc for the last 30 years.
Well, the introduction. Yeah, I'm sorry.
You didn't really chime in on these DC Comics future stories. We'll let you have the last word before we move on to the final topic. What are your thoughts? Is there anything in there that's got you, getting the semi or something?
I'm looking forward to that Swamp Thing that Jeff Lemire and Doug Mahnke is going to be working on. I guess like a 3-issue Black Label. Jock is doing a Batman Black Label, and I guess waiting to see who's going to be on Batman after Williamson is really the only thing that I am interested in. Actually,
it's got to be.
What do I read that's DC? I'm so like I pick up some DC stuff, but nothing is really doing it for me. Maybe Justice League. What is it? Incarnate. Seeing where that goes might be a big deal for the next.
That's
6
leading
months.
into the Crisis event.
Exactly. So, if I wasn't sure what I was going to read and I didn't want to get dragged in, I would probably read Justice League Incarnate and maybe Batman for Williamson. And if there's a special character you like that's actually getting a series, I'm sick of the Aquaman stuff already. They just do it this way. They have Aquaman The Becoming. Then they have the 80th anniversary or whatever the hell that is. And then they have Aquaman and Green Arrow. And then they're introducing Aquaman. And just as all of those are fine, you're going to have 4 Aquaman books, around the same time. And I don't care about any of them. You forgot we're talking about Aquaman, And we're going to have Batgirls. Oh yeah, everybody's gonna be all hot for Batgirls, and then that will be what 6 issues in, and everybody's gonna wane on that one.
Yeah, they're pushing Batgirls so hard, and I haven't really talked to anyone that is hyped about it. I've talked to people that are excited that Steph and Cass are getting their own book and that they're getting the exposure. But I haven't talked to anyone that's like, I'm so excited to read this. And it's for me, it's fallen back into that whole like Twitter talk that the backups and then the teaser is just so much Twitter talk. And
it's written by Conrad and Cloonan.
I know, which is
an automatic red flag right there.
Becky Cloonan can't write for shit.
I don't want to. I have customers that have put that one on hold. They are excited for Batgirls. I'm just talking about me personally.
No,
If
I
that
want to get
sells
excited
well,
for Batgirl.
I'll be very
Go see the
excited.
Comics Elite store exclusive cover. Who did that one, Drew?
Oh my gosh, shame on me. I forget who did the cover. If Sean was just in here, he could have told you. But yeah, he did a great job with that. It's amazing. It sold very well. We had to put up more covers. We sold too many.
There you go. It's already sold out.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not excited about the DC future either. I'm going to check out Shadow War because I am reading Robin. I think the story of Damian Wayne and Flatline and Ravager and Counter Hawk and Respawn, I think it's going to be cool. I want to see that story. We'll see if the event ends up being any good. I think it's a waste of I don't know why they're having the event. You're just going to stunt the book and kill all of its momentum.
It's an event to have an event.
Yeah. So let's get into the final topic here. San Diego Comic-Con happened last weekend. It was sparsely attended. I think, obviously coinciding it so close to Thanksgiving was not a very good decision, but all the big boys essentially pulled out. There were no big movie trailers. There were no big releases as far as TV or streaming or anything. It was just comic books this year. Doc, can San Diego Comic-Con maintain itself if it's just a comic book convention moving forward?
Yes, and it will by being an actual just comic book convention. Look, the thing is, SDCC hasn't been about comic book. Now, it's going to be a very, very big kind of adjustment phase because
they might go bankrupt before this happens.
They might, and they're going to end up in a smaller venue. They're going to absolutely end up in a smaller venue because it's a massive shift. They took 40 years to turn a comic book convention into having nothing to do with comic books until now, and now they have to switch back on a dime. They're going to end up selling off some of their other shows, absolutely, in order to bring about, have funding to do this. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see that happen. I think they will survive as a smaller show, and they will always have the reputation of being that show. I mean, I think it can survive. It's just going to be a very, very interesting next few years. But there's always the possibility that Hollywood...
They might have a lease on that building where they have to pay for it for 5 years or something.
So So this is 100% what's going on. So contractually, when you have conventions like this, you sign multiple year leases. Now, there's this whole backstory that's been going on where SDCC, because it had been so big, was touting, we're going to find somewhere else. We're going to find somewhere else. We're going to find somewhere else. Pandemic happened. So 2019, they didn't hold it. San Diego couldn't actually do anything to it because there was a mandate. You couldn't hold functions. So no SDCC, no problem. Moved to this year, or I guess 2020, not 2019. So moved to this year, and that mandate isn't there. And even though people are still hesitant, they don't want to do big crowd, all that jazz, SDCC was going to cancel again. And they were pretty much told no. If you cancel, you're done. Your contract's done. And they don't have anything lined up yet. So they contractually had to hold an event this year. And they knew they weren't going to get their money back. So they picked this weekend because it was the cheapest weekend they could get. So all of this is coming into play.
That makes sense.
Yeah. All of this is coming into play. This was strategic on the convention's part. This was strategic on San Diego's part. They've kind of been having this, for lack of better words, a dick measuring contest for a few years now. And they both kind of got to put each other in their place. Moving forward, you're gonna return to normal.
Yeah,
this next year
to normal.
Yeah, this next year it depends on how people are feeling with coronavirus and whatever. You got Omicron.
That's gonna be the big factor.
Yeah,
that really is. I mean, in the state laws, the lockdowns, just people wanting to go out to go to the convention.
But Disney wanted to pull out already. Marvel had already wanted to pull out and do their own conventions.
Yes. I think what you're going to see, though, is that after 2 years of Disney and Marvel and then even Warner Brothers and DC trying to do their own thing, I think that first year it was a success, especially from DC and Warner Brothers end. Fandom was great. This second time, it hasn't been as successful. And I think they're going to realize that partnership does play a pivotal role. They're going to need it. They may not go to the links that they've gone in the past, and they're probably still going to keep their individual events, but you'll see them step back in with a few things here and there.
Yeah, I think, have any thoughts?
I think that if it this was their stopgap year. If it does not return to form next year, they will allow their contract to get voided.
Yeah, but to break a lease, you have to pay a penalty.
You do.
It'll still be better than them hosting. If you don't have Warner and Sony and Disney and Universal and Paramount back in that building during these, they will go bankrupt.
Yeah, that's the point. They might go bankrupt anyway if you don't make money for 3 years. You eventually,
but no,
somebody will buy it just to have the name.
They still own other shows.
Name's good.
They do.
They still own
good.
They still own a bunch of other shows. SDCC
Don't you dare call something Comic-Con. I'll sue you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only thing they have that's really worth anything to me. Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I mean San Diego Comic-Con is owned by ReedPop, right? So ReedPop is the umbrella company that for Emerald City Comic-Con, which is going on, I think, right now.
New York?
New York Comic-Con, C2E2, and a bunch of other things. If they were going to pull up stakes and do something different, well, most likely what would happen is they would probably they would do a balance sheet, look at which is the least profitable or the least attended, and maybe consolidate them. And so instead of saying we're going to have Florida Con and we're not going to have C2E2 and we're not going to have Emerald City Comic Con and we're not going to have a bunch of the other ones, we're just going to have maybe 2 or 3 and then maybe roll them into SDCC, which will maybe boost the numbers back up, but there'll be fewer conventions that people will have access to is maybe the more likely scenario.
What I mean though is they could take some of the profit from one of the other shows to offset the cost of letting the penalty for letting the contract expire there. Oh, you're excused. Gesundheit.
What are you doing?
It was a sneeze cough.
Did you swallow a bug?
No, I went to sneeze and it turned into a cough. I'm still fighting this crud, y'all. I'm sorry.
But so no, they will either sell off one of their lower profitability, because there are other promotion convention companies that are out there that would be willing to buy like Emerald City off them or C2E2. But so they'd take whatever so if they need it just short-term money, they do that. Otherwise, if they're actually still profitable in those other ones, they take some of the profit for that, take their beating from the contract for breaking the contract with the convention center in San Diego, not do a show next year, have the contract broken, pay the penalty, find a smaller venue if they are going to be focusing mostly more on comics. But if next year comes around and Sony and Hasbro and Disney and Warner and Universal and Paramount are like, yeah, we want to come back, we want to do our thing again, then they'll be like, okay, cool, we just go right back to normal.
Right, we do have a couple of super chats I want to hear here. We've got Ironcaster. What does the panel think of IDW and the Hasbro licenses eventual go-to company? We obviously talked about that one a little bit in depth. They're going to boot. They're got to be, right? They're going to be following the Magic the Gathering license, right?
That's right, I think.
Yeah. I mean, unless they are changing their practices, it sounds that way.
That's what it probably looks like. We also have Ryan Wilson. If the creators hate the fans and the fans hate the creators, then no one's really going to show up.
I mean, most people go for the movies and television now. I mean, you've got a small group of people that are there for the comics, and you'll have people walk the convention floor. But people go because of the movies and television.
The comic stuff is like in the dungeon.
Well,
and the exclusives at the convention, people underestimate just how valuable those con exclusives are, especially New York Comic Con and San Diego. Just that's a big reason to go. But if you're transitioning your show to like a hypothetical to a digital show, what's the point of the show then?
They never figure that part out.
That's just called Twitter every day.
Yeah. Well, two things here. Doc, you mentioned the studios potentially pulling out. I think if you see studios pull out, it's going to be Warner Brothers and Marvel, Disney. And even then, I'll say they pull out like 80%. But if you see that happen, your Universal, your Sony, your Paramount, you're going to see them step in further because they have the opportunity to. So I don't think you're going to see a full diminish. The other thing, and this is just from the comics publisher aspect of it, one of the big things about going to San Diego Comic-Con, if you're going for the comics, is getting this information first. And the past the last 2 years that they had the full event, both DC and Marvel were really bad about setting up exclusives with comic book media and letting them publish it right before panels. Yeah, right before panels revealed it. So you had it hitting the internet before the people who paid to come to this event, which is freaking expensive, got to experience it. So you kind of took away the point of coming for them. So they got to rethink that as well.
It was a different year, as Josh gave a pretty good synopsis on why they ended up having to hold it. It was a different San Diego Comic-Con. We shall see. We know that Disney with their D23, they've been wanting to pull out for years. Warner Brothers, obviously, they had their success with Fandom. We'll see if they'll be able to build on that, but we shall see what it ended up becoming of San Diego Comic-Con. But it was certainly a lesser event this year. There was no big announcements, no buzz, and it sounded like it was very sparsely attended.
I just know that I hope you end up with more comic vendors at these. That will be the nice thing. Comic vendors will actually be able to afford.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, they have to adjust their prices for those tables then also. I mean, it's they priced out people to come from other areas and bring their wares, if it's not a pop vinyl thing, then
if it's or if it's if you're not Chuckles up at Mile High.
Sure, but I don't. Does he even really attend that anymore? I mean, I used to have friends that did a lot of shows, and it's up
until maybe about 3 years ago. I know he was going. I haven't paid attention to what he does.
San Diego, it lost its appeal to me a lot longer than what it's way before Green Lantern. That type of stuff. Watchmen. That was pretty. I mean, I worked for a store and we still sold stuff there, but you could see it. Marvel wasn't around. It was only these smaller companies in DC, and back in the day, in the golden age, let me tell you, people of San Diego, it was amazing. Back when you had to fax people to get a quick response from them and stuff like that. That's the reason why there were so many creators that would go there, and there were so many people that had tables and boxes, and you got to weave your way into these big areas of just comic books. And
those are I love doing that. Going to conventions, going with my buddy Ernie, just digging. You can find a lot of gold in those dollar bins. It's amazing.
San Diego was amazing though. Everybody came from all around. You didn't have to go anywhere else. It was. Think of that small place where there's all the surrounding comic stores that come to a little show.
Yeah.
And we're talking states instead, Oh, do the Canadians come down this year? Oh, yeah, they're the ones over there with the blue boxes, and go in there and it's Canadians. All right.
You need to come to one of the shows in Pittsburgh sometime. I'm not kidding. Yeah. We get people from basically everywhere from Chicago all the way up through Canada, all the way down into Georgia that come up here to vend. It's nice. Dope.
All right. Well, I think we've covered that one enough. It's time to start wrapping this up. Were you saying something?
If I could add one comment to that, I don't think SDCC is finished, or at least that the whole general convention scene is fully finished. But I'm pretty darn sure that they'll never get to where they were. They'll never get back to where they were.
No,
I mean that's an almost guarantee at this point. Yep. So it's either going to be smaller or it's going to morph into something different. But it'll never be as big as Kevin Feige and the cast of the Avengers walking up on stage on Hall H. It's never going to get back to that level ever again. So,
and Robert Downey Jr. with the Iron Man hand.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing either. So
New York, New York is going to become the new SDCC. NYCC will be officially replacing SDCC.
No, I think Disney wants to handle all their own stuff.
Yeah, but the thing with Disney is they only do D23 every other year. So, I mean, unless they change that, they're gonna flip flop.
All right, well,
and it's easier to get a hotel in the tri-state area for the Javits Center than it is to Get a hotel near the San Diego
Yeah.
Convention Center.
Man.
I hate
Like
that walk.
the hole in the wall, like hooker rat infested hotels go for like $200 a night during SDCC. Like if you want just a middle of the road hotel, you're paying like $600 a night. It's crazy.
Stay on the
Yeah, but if
base,
you go to
so-
New York Comic Con, you could always get like a little something across the river in Jersey City
Yeah.
or something, and just hop a
And just
hop a train.
hop on the train. Yep.
You got to be in Jersey though.
I'm down with Jersey. I don't mind.
I used to live in Jersey. It's not as bad.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing. No,
We
I
gotta do a
think this is a
blowout,
great
get a
show.
tan, and fist pump.
God damn it! God damn it!
I'm sorry.
Gosh, we're wrapping this thing up. Time to get to the end. It's time to start recommending some comic books. I think we had a fun show today. Had a great time. I want to say thank you very much to Gabe. First time appearance on here. We'll definitely have you back. You definitely had a wealth of information and some great opinions. What should people be looking out for? Should they be looking out for some reviews on what Weird Science? Is there anything else? Do you have some podcasts or anything people should know about?
Yeah, definitely go to Weird Science DC Comics and Weird Science Marvel Comics. We have if you follow us, we'll follow you back policy. And really, the claim to fame for Weird Science is the podcast. So definitely listen to the podcast. Those things, you think this is long. The Weird Science podcast sometimes lasts 3, 4, several hours. I mean, we got some marathon stuff going on. For everything that's not Marvel and DC, I'm the publisher in EIC for comicalopinions.com. That's basically everything outside of Marvel and DC. So we're talking Dynamite, Second Sight, Source Point Press, Mad Cave, everything else. I think somebody in the chat even asked about how was Good Boy. If you like John Wick, then you like Good Boy, because Good Boy is John Wick. I mean, it's not sort of like John Wick. It is exactly John Wick, but it's the dog instead of the man. So if you like anthropomorphic dogs that are assassins, then you're in great shape. So Weird Science DC Comics, Weird Science Marvel Comics, please do listen to the podcast. For everything outside of DC Marvel, please go to comicalopinions.com. My recommendation for the week, as much as I give him grief, and anybody who knows me knows I am not a Tom King fan. Absolutely not a Tom King fan. But I got to give it to him. Human Target #2 was great. I like that. I like Human Target where it's going so far. It's still a ripoff of an old Detective Warren movie, but Human Target #2 was probably my pick of the week so far.
Fantastic. All right, Drew, you guys at Comics Elite, you had your Kickstarter kickoff this week. There will be a link in the video description during the replay. I'm sorry I didn't get that up beforehand. What's the number now? How are you doing?
Sean came over to congratulate me. I had to mute it. We hit 40K during the stream. And
very good.
It's the fastest selling comic in Merc Magazine's ever had in 3 days.
Nice.
And so he said he hasn't done jack and shit to promote it at all. And so it's just been word of mouth on YouTube. So we still have 3 more covers we're going to launch. One of which is done. I'm not going to say his name, but we said his name earlier in the stream. This artist, he's doing a cover for me, who worked at Wildstorm. But
oh my goodness.
So but I will say, go back Born of Blood. Let's get it to 50 and go to Comics League, get the Cal Nagoo Batman 118 cover.
Absolutely. And be looking out for Drew and myself tomorrow to be talking about all the best comic books of the week. What are you recommended this week? Just a little teaser of what you're going to be talking about tomorrow.
King of Spies. I'm going to talk about King of Spies.
Fuck you! You stole my recommendation.
You can recommend some X-Men, Doc. What are you recommending this week?
Yeah,
Doc? X-Men.
No, I'm recommending King of Spies.
Trial
King of
Magneto.
Spies.
Come on.
God damn it! No. King of Spies #1 and Magic Order #2. It was a Mark Miller week for me.
There you go. Absolutely. What are you guys doing at Fantastic Comics? You got any big sales? If people are in the air, should they come check it out?
No, just come in and buy some comics at cover price.
You get it at cover price or $10.
Cover price. I have a discount comics outside, including graphic novels that got crunched. I have right now in the discount box, I have the entire collection of Enemy of the State. How's that one, Doc?
Oh, the Wolverine.
Yeah.
Mark Miller run with John Romita Jr. Very good.
It's half off. It's like a $20 book because it got crunched.
It's a fun. That's a fun series.
I actually like the last 2 issues of Amazing Spider-Man by whoever this person is that's writing it.
Cody Ziegler?
Yeah.
Dolph Ziegler. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Dolph Ziegler.
I enjoyed it, and the arts at time isn't so great, but overall, I really enjoyed the illustrator also. And also, I read the first 4 issues of the Jerry Dugan X-Men. I like it. The Nightmare issue was kind of not the greatest, but overall, it was an okay issue, and that's what I recommend.
All right, Josh. What do you got going on? Do people need to know about anything, or you just want to recommend some comic books?
You know, I mean, I'm about to get back into full swing with pop by culture. I had a pause there for a second, but about to get back into full swing there. So keep an eye out for what's coming up, especially when we get into next year when I have my full launch. I've got months worth of stuff already slated and scheduled, so that'll be a lot of. It'll be exciting. Comic books, I had to stop and think because I've already started reading stuff for next week. But highly recommend Detective Comics Annual. That was great. If you want to hate yourself. No, out of the Batman stuff, Robin was the win for me. There were some nice things in Nightwing. Other than that, I'm with Gabe. Human Target was actually really good. I have reservations because Tom King has started strong and let me down many, many times. But yeah, it was actually a really good issue. So if you haven't checked it out, it might be worth checking out. And hopefully he'll finish strong.
I think you mispronounced every time.
He can't stick the landing. And sometimes the takeoff is bad too.
Well, yeah, no. But look, I mean,
his Omega Men started really good. I like that one a lot.
I thought Omega Men was good, throughout the run. Sheriff of Babylon was good. Grayson, I loved until he wasn't on Grayson, and they brought in the 2 Yahoos to finish.
What was that, Seeley?
No, well, Tim Seeley was with them through the whole way. They brought in Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, and
that's like a death sentence.
Yeah, they just butchered like those last 4 issues. But he's done good work, and I hope now that he's not in that spotlight and hopefully kind of knocked off his pedestal a little bit, he'll get back to telling good stories.
I do want to remind everybody, tomorrow you'll have the best comics of the week. On Monday, Doc and I roast the crap out of Wonder Woman, Historia, the Amazons, as well as Echo Phoenix song, Echo number 2, whatever that one is. So if you want to hear about some good comics tomorrow, you want to hear about some bad comic books, that'll be on Monday. We had a lot of fun with that. Drew and I will obviously be doing that one together. I appreciate everything. Congratulations to Drew. Thank you very much to Gabe. And we will see you all next week right here on the Comics Aficionados.
And wash your ass.